you?
I'm fine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Harrisburg City Council work session. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:38 p.m. Mr. Petrosky, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett,
Present.
Ms. Bowers,
Present.
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Madsen,
Here.
Mr. Majors,
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Present. Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. We're moving on committee business, but before we do that, we will open up the discussion for the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Tom Carter. Ms. Green, Chairman Green,
Yes, President Williams.
would you please conduct the committee business under police safety?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner Carter, and everyone for coming today. Just last week, there were some questions asked by council members that weren't able to be answered by the administration. So we thought that we would be able to ask you guys some of the questions today. Start with the questions all the way to my right, if we were on the dais, which would be Councilwoman Majors. Do you have any questions regarding any of the public safety legislation or anything for the Councilwoman Daniels, you're still muted.
You're muted.
I was saying, I have a few. Are we going by like bill number, or are we asking all the questions at once? Because all of my questions.
We can ask all the questions at once. That way we don't have to go back again, because I know this wasn't officially on the agenda tonight.
Okay. So I have a few questions on both bills. Again, just reminding, I feel like some of the terms are terms of art, so I would like the opportunity to have someone kind of go over some of the what I look like terms of art to me. But also I wanted clarification on what, because there's a provision that says, then this is really fundamentally a resolution for a report that will happen before August. This isn't the actual long-term ordinance. So I wasn't sure what practical adjustments or modifications the mayor would like to see or do that he wouldn't already know about, that we could already include in that report. And I'm guessing this is a resolution and an ordinance, not an ordinance because we're getting more time to develop a more accurate ordinance. I'm guessing. So those are kind of just questions. So that was on the use of force one. On the police review board one, I kind of wanted to get a sense. I didn't see what our duty or the police department's duties or the law bureau's duties are to the actual board. So it almost feels like they're just left out there without really us having to provide them support. So I wanted to know what our responsibilities, our meaning either city council, the mayor's office, or the police department to that review board. The orientation, I would like to get, I'm not sure why the orientation is the responsibility of the police department when it seems to me it should be the law bureau's responsibility, because the law bureau would be the one giving them legal advice. Plus if they're overseeing, I don't know. So what's the rationale for that? And then the language in there talks about citizen complaints, and it says the review board has to will be doing the reports on the citizen complaints. I didn't get a sense that they're actually investigating the complaints. Are they doing that? And then how much of the work the review board does happens after the police goes through its own internal processes, and how much happens while the police department is going through its own internal processes for disciplining or addressing issues within the police department. So those are all, I think, generally the questions I had.
So maybe I could respond, because I didn't hear any of those questions really are for the police, because they didn't write the legislation. The legislation was crafted originally through Councilman Johnson with others, and was revised with our office and Councilwoman Green. So it isn't their proposal, it's the council's proposal based on the discussions. And some of that is what these hearings are to sort out. But the idea that the police would do orientation, I'm assuming you mean the academy and the ride along, as opposed to legal advice. I think that was the concept.
Okay. So who's going to do the legal orientation for, like who's going to actually give them the training? Because a review board, you know, I would imagine, you know, they have to be really well trained in conflicts of interest. They have to be really well trained in, you know, what's confidentiality, what's not, all of those things. So will there be a training component for them on that part? If you're saying that they ride along and
I have not thought about that as this discussion goes on. Our office advised most boards, except those that are quasi-judicial. And when they're quasi-judicial, we then arrange for them to have an outside solicitor on that. So like the zoning board, because they make binding decisions under the MPC, which, you know, invests them with that power, has an outside solicitor. The tax and appeal board for taxes, because they have affects people's tax bills, you know, which doesn't happen very often, they have an outside solicitor. But there's not many of those. Most of them are through our office. All the advisory ones are through our office. It depends where the council ends up on the other side of this legislation. You know, I know the discussion is back and forth about what should this board be, but as an advisory board, our office would be giving advice. But frankly, we're forming something, so I don't have an outline for training yet or anything like that, because this is sort of a council piece of legislation. And as we formulate it, I think those decisions get made like any new thing that's adopted. How do you make it work? So it's not on the front end. I mean, as you guys decide what the parameters are, I think it decides what the training would be, how that would come about on the legal side. Does that answer that question?
kind of, I guess you're saying is it's on us to figure that out. Okay.
No, depending what's in the bill will depend what training gets done. You had a series of questions though. The use of force, I didn't know which things you considered terms of art when you said that, so I'm not sure whether you.
Yeah, that one refers to a police order, and then I read the police order, and then there's, I don't know, I just feel like I don't know enough about like the different types of engagements to know whether that police order is as inclusive as I'd like it to be or as exclusive as I'd like it to be. So I guess that's why it's hard for me to make an opinion when I'm not sure if some of these terms may have a slightly different meaning than common usage terms. That's basically all I'm saying.
That question would be for the police to explain the order which they have and they operate under, where the language comes from, how they train on it. I mean, that is a police question. Whether that's all doable tonight, I don't know, because use of force training is its own set of trainings. But I think they could walk.
That's what it, yeah. Like,
so.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand the actual question, ma'am.
So on the use of force order, so it has all of the things that are included in the police reports. And I don't think that this is the best, because I had asked for this last week, like whether we could arrange kind of a training or something, because I don't feel like I'm familiar enough with police engagement, I guess, opportunities, I don't know what to call them, to know whether the language in the order is, whether the terminology is what a common person would understand them to be, or whether they are specific terms of art within the law enforcement practice. So, so what I was saying is I don't feel like I know enough to know whether it's inclusive enough or exclusive enough. But this ordinance is really just for the August report. So I would like to have some kind of training or something. I don't know if you have any webinars or any resources that you could send our way so that I could review, so that when we look at the formal ordinance, I have a better sense of what it is those reports are having or not having.
So Commissioner Carter, will we be able to set up a training for council members where you can go over use of force policy? And just like what the officers are trained on as far as use of force?
Yes. We can definitely do that because use of force to the lay person is totally different. You have to police training in order to understand what they're talking about, and when to visualize what police are like visualizing when it does happen. So of course we would be more than happy to for city council to do that.
And Neil had mentioned that the insurance company that represents us in excessive use of force, they have like training resources too.
The firm who represents us offered to come in and do a training on a number of things, which we talked about last week, and I've talked to outside counsel about. There's about 5 different statutes that we are related, if you want to understand policing in the legal framework, that it would probably be helpful to inform everybody, this is why one thing is one way and not another. Whether it's the 1983 actions, whether it's the Act 111, whether it's the Act 120, there's a series of them. And that sort of gives you the legal context of policing in Pennsylvania as it is today. Some of the things we do are absolutely done because that's how the state has told us they're done. And that's how they've told the police they're done. But most people don't get trained on that at all. And so you don't have that framework for the discussion. So we would like to put sort of a workshop together. And the question is how long would it be? Who would be presenting? And how would we do it? Would we do it like this? Would we do it in a live room? And we haven't had that discussion yet, how to do that.
Okay. Do you think, Commissioner Carter and Neil, that y'all could put something together before we resume in the fall?
I do. I talked to council just yesterday about putting together the outline of the subject matters and then working through that. And then it's going to just depend on everyone's availability. And there's options. We could do it like this, or we could do it with Momin perhaps or his staff and set up a recorded module on the subjects so council members can review them, but we haven't worked out those details yet.
And on that one, the question I had for the mayor was, so in the resolution, it has language that says it could be modified for practical adjustments or modifications by the mayor. But I didn't understand why, since this is an ordinance that just really applies to one report in August, why we couldn't incorporate whatever adjustments need to be adjusted into the ordinance. Like, was there something?
So that's my phrase in there.
Is unknown at this point. Huh?
My apologies. That was my phrase in there as practicable, because it was really going to depend, how many details are in the use of force reports and how you can compile them in an efficient way. I don't pretend that I know how to do it efficiently. We were trying to not make it overly burdensome to put it together so that it could happen in a timely way. And once we see that, the categories may change a little bit depending what's there. But you're talking about the use of force resolution, which is just the initial reporting on the categories. And it was trying to figure out the formatting.
Yeah. Right.
That's all. So it was trying to basically, how do you efficiently and practically put this together? And it may be that one of the issues we listed is so cumbersome because you got to recheck 3 sets of records for every one line. Maybe that isn't there because there's not a practical way to do it without putting 4 people on it. And so maybe one of them can't be there just for practical purposes by August. That would be, the one concern. We didn't want it to die and not come back. If that, we wanted that it actually had.
Reports for a long time now.
What's that?
Yeah, but we've been talking about police reports for a while now. So like that at this point, we still don't know. Because this is a resolution for one report in August.
Right,
So
one summary
by-
report, and the question is what categories would be of use to know, because use of force reports are narratives when you start out. You know, I encountered Bob Smith on Green Street at 7:19 p.m. after giving him a lawful order to stop. Mr. Smith pushed me. I mean, this is what an officer on the street is writing. Translating that narrative into a summation of matters is the challenge of this. You know, it's easy to say we have 12 reports on the discharge of a weapon. If there were 12 of them or 0 of them, it's harder to take that narrative and put it into a summary for every one of the officer's encounters. So basically, I was trying to figure out how to make the report useful, but do it in a way that it doesn't become someone's career just to write this report.
And I guess we have to vote on this right after this meeting. So there really isn't time to amend this very much, or was there a plan to vote on this when we got back?
Well, the idea was to come back with
the
a
report,
see how if it answers your questions, and if it doesn't, go on to the next thing. That is it not really useful to the council? Is there something else that everyone wants?
Okay.
I don't believe this is on the agenda for tonight.
No, it's not.
We had a discussion last week that we will hold off on this report until after hiatus, so it would have to be amended to change the report date from August, since we won't be coming back until August, because there were some questions that you guys wanted answered. So we didn't want to go rushing to get it on tonight's agenda, just for the sake of getting it on the agenda. So there is still time to amend it.
Okay. And the other ones, the review board with the citizen complaint, are they actually handling the citizens complaint, or are they just reporting on how many citizen complaints there are?
They are not handling the citizens complaint as it's written right now. No, the complaint isn't to the board. It's an advisory board to the council and the mayor. So they're not processing complaints. Council already voted 3 years ago on an ordinance on complaints. And it's to basically review what's come in and see whether the complaints are being addressed or not. You know, basically it creates an oversight in the sense of reporting back to council from a set of eyes that's not the police or the administration to report back, you know, on citizen complaints. Are there 2 of them? Are there 100 of them? Have they been dealt with?
And then the last one, I didn't see any like responsibilities or duties from us to the board, like us, either city council, administration, or police department. So you know, when I read it, it kind of just looks like a board that's out there on its own, right? So like so they'll only be able to do as much as whichever administration is there, whichever council body is there, whichever commissioner of police is there, and not necessarily like there are any obligations to them, so they could function regardless of.
I think that's part of what gets sorted out in this process. I will note that, you know, the city's clerk's office is in there to be their resource for records and record keeping and minutes and things like that. But what resources and how they get them, I think gets decided as we go. I'm not sure there's much in any ordinance that we have for a board in terms of the city affording the board specific resources. It's just that because council creates one and the appointments get made, it sort of gets worked out from there. It hasn't been that formalized in most of them. Because, you know, this, for example, I think like other boards, it lets them, if they wish to create bylaws, it doesn't require them to. Basically, you get the collective together as the initial group and they start talking about how they think this should function based on the ordinance and go from there. But we have a whole series of boards, and it's not usually a list of resources and assignments that go with it. The mayors assign, and sometimes that change who in administration they assign to deal with the board, help them and assist them, be their conduit to information, all those things. But I think that's part of the discussion the council has to have between here and as the summer goes on.
Okay, that's all right for me.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniel.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Councilman Majors.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner and other members of the police department. So first, I'll just start by saying, I guess I was a little caught off guard because it was my understanding that from the last agenda that this was not going to be a piece of discussion for today. That I know the chair, public safety chair, Ms. Green was going to be hosting a series of meetings over the summer. And I just want to make sure that's still the case. And I guess, are we going to talk next steps at some point in the future in terms of timing?
Yes, there will still be a series of public information sessions, public town hall style hearings where we will engage the public. I'm looking towards the end of July and beginning of August to host at least 2, if not 3. Now I plan on them being virtual, and we'll see about being able to broadcast them on Channel 20, just to make sure anyone who doesn't have internet has access to it. Just trying to make sure it's as accessible as possible. For tonight, this isn't on the agenda. This isn't something that we were supposed to go into a long discussion about, but I just wanted to make sure, since the police department wasn't here last week, that if there were any questions we wanted to ask before we started the public town halls, you had the opportunity to ask them. So it's not supposed to be a long, elaborate thing because I know we have the work session and then the legislative session, but it's supposed to just be able to get any questions that we want to answer beforehand out there.
Okay, great. No, thank you. Thanks for that clarification. So then I guess my first question, I guess it sort of revolves around both the bill and the use of force policy. So I was in receipt of an email dated June 30 that is dealing with the annual investigations that included information that we have been requesting and that we passed by ordinance to require a annual or a quarterly look at the complaints. So it's dated for the 2019. So I guess my question to the police department is is it this report that you provided for 2019, is it provided by a certain date, or is that just something that was sent? So it was a 2019, but it's dated June 30. So do you compile it? Does it take 6 months to compile? Does it take a month to compile for the annual report? I'm just trying to understand.
This should have been quarterly. I want to apologize. I want to apologize to City Council for not being here last week, but I didn't know I was needed here last week. But what actually happened is that Gabe Oliveira, he used to compile it like quarterly. And after Gabe left, I dropped the ball. I let it slip through my things to have it done. And so what we did is that I just had Detective Crocus just compile 2019 to hand it in to make up for the other quarters that we missed handing in. So what you have here is basically a whole year worth of information with the complaints, use of force, and everything else.
Okay, and then I guess, so moving forward, will someone be assigned to provide that on a quarterly basis to council?
Yes.
Okay. And just, I guess, not trying to go into too much detail here, but I guess, is this how the reports are normally summarized? So there's just, overall numbers, a quick demographic demographic, and then how it was adjudicated. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess, should any member of council want additional information, is that something that we can receive, or is this just, or will we just continue to get it at this high of a level.
That's what we talk about. If the city council members feel that they need additional information, we can talk about. And I'm sure that we can do something about that.
Okay. And then I guess talking to the resolution on the use of force, this report also has some information regarding use of force. Is that a report that is something that can be made public, or is that just another internal document?
An internal document.
Okay. And then so there is a protocol in place in the police department to have use of force documented and reported. Is that something that is been, I guess, cumbersome? Because I think we've heard, you hear, and as we're, looking at this issue across the country, that, there's been instances where people say, for police to have to file a use of force policy could be cumbersome. I mean, how is it being received by officers of the police department?
We've been doing what you're talking about. So we're a accredited agency. We hide nothing. We document all use of force. If it comes, from pulling a taser, mace, using a K9 dog, we document everything. And if you go through the packet that I sent you, you can see that we document everything.
Yes, no, I have it pulled up right beside me. That's why I'm asking these questions. And then in terms of it being documented, which is great, is that sent to a accrediting agency, or since it appears to be, for internal purposes, how is that used in terms of training officers in the future, or on some sort of continual basis? So we understand how many cases there were that required a document to be submitted regarding use of force. How was that then used amongst the police department?
Councilman, primarily when the use of force reports are done, they're done by the officer, usually at the conclusion of the event. That could be that evening. That could generally be, it could be the next day, depending on the severity of the event. Actually, the more severe the event, the more timely that report is being done. The process then goes from the reporting officer to a supervisor that is working at that particular time for review. It then comes upstairs to it goes to a couple different places. It goes to the captain's office, the captain of, in this particular case, if it's a patrol officer doing it, it goes to the patrol commander, that being Captain Sorensen first, who would also have an opportunity to review it, as well as myself, the commissioner, and internal affairs. The majority of the review of policy when those use of force comes from the internal affairs department. They're the ones that pick through that entire report and look for the details to make sure that everything is documented as it should be. If there's something missing from the report, take for instance, let's say the officer puts the wrong date down or uses the wrong location. That process of going through it is primarily handled by our internal affairs department, who will then send a notice back down to the officer to say, I noted in this report, the date says this, however, the actual correct date is that, please review and make sure correct for accuracy. From that report that the internal affairs officer looks at, then he makes recommendations as well as ourselves to either the training department and so forth. So it can go in a multitude of different directions, but primarily it comes to the attention of the command through the commissioner's office, and then some type of response when needed is done from there.
Okay. That makes sense? Yeah, no, okay. That makes sense. And then I guess lastly, just on this, since I know we're going to have other meetings, I don't want to take up too much time. How often is the use of force policy updated?
Well, we review it annually. The use of force policy itself is reviewed annually, generally at qualification for firearms. It's reviewed again for qualification for taser, and it is reviewed again, I think a third time. I think there's a possibility. There's at least 2 times a year that policy is gone over every year by every officer, because each officer, at least from a firearms perspective, has to qualify every year. That's where we spend the most amount of time on a review of the policy at the time of qualification. Then the secondary time is for those that carry a taser. When they requalify, they have to go over it again. But as far as the language in the policy, the only time that we may look at a policy for language is if we perceive actual issue with the language in our policy. So if we see something that's going on somewhere else that may be a change in how things are reviewed or looked at, then we would go back and look at our policy to make sure that our policy conforms to where it's trending to tend in the court system, or whether it's trending in individual departments or so forth.
And not only that, Councilman Majors, our use of force policy mirrors the legislative use of force policy under 508 criminal law. So, we pretty much mirror that use of force policy.
Okay, and I know, so then I guess, well, I mean, that would make sense to follow what the state law was on that. So I guess there'll have to be some discussions, between us and working with our state legislature and our state representatives to, if there's going to be any major change to use of force, because if it's something that, and I assume most municipal police departments follow the use of force policy as directed by Title 18. So that's something that we'll have to examine from there. And again, not to take up too much time, so I'll defer to other members of the council and then can follow up at a later date. So thank you all for indulging me.
Thank you, Councilman Majors. Vice President Allett, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, just kind of suggestion, Councilmember Green. Whatever we do in terms of the public meeting, my only concern is, or my only challenge, I guess, how we address this, how to maximize community participation in it. So as you're looking at kind of how to set that up virtually, my only recommendation is let's see what we can do to ensure the maximum amount of community participation across the city. I was thinking that, as I know virtual is a big part of how we're doing meetings now, but there's probably a good portion of our community that might not have that technical access that might want to participate. So we might have to get creative with it, but just got to spend some time thinking about how to carry that out.
Right. Thank you, Vice President Allett.
Thank you.
President Williams, any questions?
No questions, Ms. Green. I concur with Mr. Allett, Vice President Allett. I'm just concerned that we may need to have more than 2 meetings to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to address the bill.
Thank you, President Williams. Councilman Madsen, do you have any questions?
Just real quick, while we have the commissioner here, do we have what is the update on the current police complement? How many officers do we have on staff currently?
Well, that's a floating number as we speak. I think our current number right now is right around 135, but we are actively losing officers as we speak.
Yeah. And then in your mind, what would be an ideal complement?
Yeah, 200 to start, maybe. Realistically, to do what we really need to do, 160s gets us into a better comfortable position to address different things that need to happen. But, I just don't see us getting to that number, to be honest with you. And I don't want to sound wrong in saying that. That's a hard number to get to at this present day.
Understood. And then how many officers does that translate to per shift?
You want us to give you our shift numbers right now?
Or I guess, I don't know if shift's the proper term, I guess, but I guess how many on a given, I don't know, portion of time that they work? What's the average hour officers asked to work on a given day?
Well, we work 8-hour shifts, but with our current manning, we're probably holding over 2 to 4 officers a shift every day.
2 to 4.
Yep.
Okay. And I guess we'll get, at some point, will you give us feedback over your thoughts on the Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee, or your input? I'm assuming at some point, I don't know if that's happened already. I guess it doesn't sound like it has, but at some point, will you give us your thoughts or suggestions on the legislation?
Yes, we can definitely do that. You know, it's a police point of view, you know, that we're willing to work with everyone. We have nothing to hide. We're a good police agency, and we take pride in what we do and how we serve the citizens of the Harrisburg City. So, you know, we're willing to sit at the table and just discuss, and whatever the board turns out to be, you know, whatever it turns to look like, and we're willing to work with everybody.
Okay. And I know this is probably going to be an ongoing discussion, but summer's going to end pretty quickly before we know it. Then we're going to get into the budget season. And should, given the complement, council start exploring the idea of more civilian emergency responders?
Well, that's a nationwide subject that is going on right now. I have my viewpoint on it, you know, and I'm sure that we can all discuss it at a later date. You know, with the country needs is police officers. You
I
know,
didn't get that last little part. Sorry. Could you?
there's mental health workers and everything else, but you know what most cities and states and different agencies need to be just more police officers.
Okay. And then that's it for questions. I just have a comment. In June, the governor announced a series of reforms, and part of those reforms was providing technical assistance to municipalities from the Pennsylvania Commission of Crime and Delinquency to encourage the creation of local citizens advisory boards. So as we solicit input from the community, I think it'd be a good idea to take the administration's offer up on getting or seeking advice from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, as well as the police feedback as well. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Madsen. Councilman Bowers?
Thank you, Councilwoman Green. Good evening, gentlemen. I have two questions, both regarding Bill 8. So first, what are the 7 police districts?
7 police districts.
Yes.
District 1,
Which is downtown.
Okay.
Midtown. District 3 is uptown. District 4 is north of State Street, up including Hack. District 5 is Allison Hill. District 6 is Bellevue Park, and District 7 is the Hall Manor area now.
Thank you. I was asking because, as you know, the 7 members of the board have to come from each of the districts. So I just wanted to clarify where they were. My second and final question is, how many residents have successfully completed the Citizens Police Academy?
I could get you the number. I don't have that off the top of my head. I think we did 3.
We did 2. We've done 2 since right before Captain Olivera left. Each class was close to about 20 to 21 people. So those are 40 people. However, there were multiple citizens police academies that took place prior to this current administration, even during Mayor Thompson's administration as well. So dozens of people have gone through. Even a lot of community members that we work with now have stated they've gone through the police academy here and state police and Squatter Township, just a full combination. So,
Okay, well, I would appreciate some, I guess, concrete numbers and perhaps the names of the individuals. I'm asking because that is a membership qualification. So I just wanted to be clear on those pool of potential appointees. Thank you very much. I look forward to ongoing conversations throughout the summer.
Just one point, ma'am. Just don't rule out that they could also attend a police academy after being selected for that advisory board. That could be
Okay.
definitely done after the fact as well.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Moody. I was just going to mention that in the bill, it does say they can attend, they have to attend an orientation within 6 months, I believe it is.
That's correct. Or otherwise have previously completed a city-sponsored Citizens Police Academy. That's why
Right.
I wasn't clear that they could do it after, but that's good to know.
Right. That way, it doesn't disqualify someone because they haven't previously completed one.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, yes, I do, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
I guess that was Captain Moody mentioned that we're actively losing officers at the department. I'm assuming exit interviews are being conducted, and then if so, is there a main reason for us actively losing members of our police force that is being cited?
Again, we always provide the opportunity for an exit interview. Last thing we want to do is force someone into an exit interview. We provided opportunities for each person through our process, through HR, after meeting with HR, to come and see us and talk to us. Some choose to talk to us. Some choose not to talk to us, depending on whatever the reason may be. Predominantly, I can be I can't give you 100% all of the reasons. I can only tell you the reasons that we have heard before. Obviously, the climate of the country right now plays a big portion into decision-making for different officers for different reasons. But a lot of it has to do with, what's going on just generally now. I think you're questioning a lot of officers' ability. I think some of the officers believe that it's becoming more and more difficult to do the job as required. So you tend to see some of them looking for places to go where there's less, I'm going to say the words I'm going to choose is less potential for interaction with people, where they're not as busy, maybe is a good word to say, and the pay is more. You can never rule out pay, but if you look at it from a standpoint of, I can go to another department where I have half the calls for service, less possibility of having to have close contact and fighting and tussling with people and get paid more money. That's always going to become more appealing. And just pressure from family to just move away to a different venue, I guess, for lack of better words. Some that have talked to us, it's definitely about the financial aspect of it. And some talk to us about the pressures from their own family in the profession that they have chosen. So I think it's like the path of least resistance in some cases. And for whatever reason, the city is active. It's a city. All cities are the same in that capacity, not just Harrisburg, just cities are just generally, typically busier places to work for a lot of reasons. But the trend seems to be moving away from city policing and more towards township and rural. But that's not to say that they're not losing officers as well. They also lose officers for the same reason about just changing the profession with the, I guess, the increased scrutiny. And that's not in a bad sense, just the whole, I think the mentality of the possibility of going to jail for a situation that you have seconds to make a decision on. It's questioning a lot of people, is it worth it to do this?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that answer. And yeah, I have members of my family that are in law enforcement at multiple levels of government, and I guess it's good to hear your response. But we know that, I think a lot of what the country's climate is one thing, but I think what we're asking for here in the city is maybe just some additional accountability and folks that are, being paid by taxpayers just to have some, we're just looking to actually right now, I mean, this has just been a conversation, and it's, somewhat, I guess, I guess I'll not want to comment the way that I'm thinking, but I think, we, coming to work in a city, we all know city life presents a lot of different challenges, no matter what the field you're in, and, you are, and this is a field that requires a lot of public trust. So to your point about losing officers then, so I think Councilman Madsen made a good point, and with a number of officers, we're losing officers, and, the number of calls aren't diminishing. How can, we work with you to be able to assist to, either, like I said, either just getting civilians or other supports that could, supplement the police department, because we still want to have some sort of level of service. We don't want to have the level of service be reduced as we are potentially actively losing officers. So we're willing to work with you there. And I think that's all the questions I have for now. And I look forward to, further discussions on this topic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Majors. Thank you all council members, and thank you to Commissioner Carter and the police department for being here today. I'm going to pass it back to President Williams. We will continue the discussion over the summer and into the early fall as we have community sessions to get the communities involved in engagement, and I will make sure to reach out to the police department to see if we can have a representative there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Pardon me?
Madam President, if I could just add something.
Yes, go ahead.
Open on the 20th.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you, Commissioner Carter. Could you speak up a little bit?
Yes, the substation will be open on the 20th of this month.
Oh, congratulations, great. Are you having a grand opening, or?
Yes, I'm sure that.
To invite the public, okay.
I'm sure that we'll have something, and we'll let you know.
Okay. While we're still on it, Chief, I do have a question. And maybe you just want to say, you maybe state to the public, with the nation in turmoil presently in regard to police incidents, what measures are you undertaking here in the city of Harrisburg to minimize these types of things, of situations?
Well, we train, if we see use of force reports come up, and if they're questionable, we train the officers. We send our officers to get psychological. Doing a psychological, if the doctor states, that they shouldn't be police officers, and then, we have real conversations. They resign or they leave for some reason. We take what is going on here in the country very, very seriously. We haven't had we outlawed chokeholds 20 years back. We do not hire part-time officers. Harrisburg is an accredited agency. That's why we don't hire part-time officers, because when you hire a part-time officer that hops from agency to agency, you don't know what you're getting. And so we don't do that. So we only hire officers that work for Harrisburg, and they're full-time officers. We're holding conversations with the general public. I was at a couple meetings today with some people, that have a real interest in what's going on here. We want to open up more dialogue with city council to make sure that we are doing the right thing, and make sure that we're on the same accord with each other. Our chair, Asha Green, she's been out there. She's been going to the rally. She's been speaking to people. The mayor's been out there. You've been out there, Madam President. City Councilman Bowers has been out there too. And so, I think that we're doing the things that we need to do to keep communication open with the public. Are we perfect? No. Are we trying? Yes. And, we will solicit help, that any help from anybody, so that, our agency can only get better, and the service to the citizens of the city will only get better too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And we look forward to working with you over the summer to try to enact a police reform bill that is agreeable to everyone.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Moving on to the committee business, we now will move on to the Administration Committee. And it's Resolution 40 of 2020. Mr. Petrosky, please read it into record. Mr. Petrosky?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. Would you please read Resolution 40 of 2020 into record?
Yeah, Resolution 40 of 2020 is a resolution appointing Mr. Leland Nelson to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council.
Okay, is Mr. Nelson available this evening, Mr. Petrosky?
I am.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Nelson, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and I apologize for keeping you so long last week. We know that you came in a couple times and you were not available, so thank you for coming back.
No problem.
Would you take this opportunity to give an overview of yourself, maybe 2 or 3 minutes? Just tell the council and the residents of Harrisburg a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you.
Okay. Those that don't know me, Leland Nelson, born and raised in Harrisburg, John Harris, Harrisburg School District graduate. Spent my career at KPMG, Big Four accounting firm, doing accounting for about 10 years. Been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life. And most recently, about 15 years ago, started a waste management company called Dirty Dog Hauling out of necessity. I was buying real estate in the city of Harrisburg. And the first guy I needed to call was a junk man. Shout out to my colleague, Pig Penn, Mr. Penn, Gary Penn, for giving me my first start. We used to borrow his truck all the time. Found myself just like we're doing in 2020 in a position where I lost my job and decided to, really hang my shingle and do my own thing full time. So it's been 15 years. Everybody has junk. The city of Harrisburg is not excluded. And just found, a great service that people need. So most recently the EAC, I remember from 3 years ago, going to different committee meetings. And I was asked most recently to consider joining, submitted my resume. And now I'm here to see, what the pleasure is of the city council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Well, I've known you for many years, Mr. Nelson, and I'm also apprised of the qualifications. Presently, you have done you have undertaken numerous projects for the city of Harrisburg, and you've done exceptional work in making sure that you have removed a lot of the trash that was littering our streets and also in a lot of our vacant homes. So I want to say thank you for all those projects that you've undertaken for us. And I just want to say thank you for your willingness to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council. I don't have any questions for you at this time because I know your qualification and certainly of your experience. So I'll move on to my council members. Ms. Bowers, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Mr. Nelson.
Good evening.
I'll share what I shared last week with my colleagues, and it's something that you've heard before too. But if the Environmental Advisory Council is your interest, I support it. However, I would love to see you recommended for our audit committee. As I mentioned last week, there are currently 2 vacancies. The audit committee members are eager to diversify the board. So if we support the EAC, can you assist us in adding some diversity, whether it's another African-American male or another person of color to fill one or both of those vacancies to ensure we have a full complement for that committee?
Yeah, so thank you for the compliment. My background is in auditing. I work for one of the biggest auditing firms in the nation, KPMG, right on 30 North 3rd Street in Harrisburg. Cut my teeth there, learned a whole bunch. Recently got my MBA from Penn State Harrisburg. So I really, it's something near, and it's just good to have different skills, right? skills to pay the bills. So it was like first call. It was first come, first serve, really. And they asked a week before you asked. So if I ever decide to, get off the EAC, then I'll call you about the audit committee. But right now, I can only do but so much volunteer work. I got to make a couple of dollars out here.
I understand. Well, please then consider making some recommendations for other people of color who can add value to that committee as well.
We'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Ms. Green.
Thank you, President Williams. Good evening, Mr. Nelson. I don't really have any questions for you. I just want to say thank you for your willingness to serve. We're always looking for people to be active in our community on different boards. You're an outstanding member of our community. You've always been active. See your trucks all the time riding by. So, I'm glad to see you becoming a part of one of our boards. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mattson.
No, thank you for coming out. Mr. Nelson, I'm familiar with you and your work, reviewed your resume, and think that you would be a great fit for the board. So thank you for your willingness to serve and coming out tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. Mr. Allett. Mr. Allett.
I'm here. Sorry, had to press the button.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson, how are you?
Hello.
So I'm going to echo Councilmember Bowers' remarks too. I agree. So I'm all on board with you going to the EAC, but if you could lend your support to helping us to find some great talented individuals to come on the audit committee as well, if you would, sir.
Okay. Well, sure enough. Sure enough.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allett. Mr. Majors.
Thank you, President Williams, and good evening, Mr. Nelson. Just wanted to ask, since this appointment will be to the EAC, if you have any goals for, as you would potentially become a member, any goals for what direction you would like to take the EAC in, and knowing your extensive knowledge of the city of Harrisburg and having had some conversations with you previously about some potential initiatives for the city. If you can just talk a little bit about some things that you may be interested in and how your talents could be best used on the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Well, Councilman Westbourne, you already know we met for at the barbershop, and I was like, hey, we got to do something about this. I remember the days, and I know Councilwoman Wanda, you'll notice the corner stores. Mr. Annie's on 19th and North, Miss Crowder on Bow Street, Mr. Bethea on 17th and Walnut. It's so many, I forgot, on Liberty Street. It was so many corner store owners, small business owners. I went and got my non-laters, my all type of candy I shouldn't have been eating, and got my little small pizzas and sausages, after school. But you didn't see a lot of trash. You did not see a lot of trash. And the one thing I said even last week when we were on a committee meeting, there should be a corner store ordinance. I think in a square block of one block minimum, it should be, keeping those corners clean. If this was environmental, if we were burning tires or dumping oil in the river, people would be screaming bloody murder. There's trash all around our corner stores. So that's my number one initiative. I understand the trees and the arborists, and it's a lot of things that, I get to the blocking and tackling. I want our corners to look good so our property value maintains. And I've seen it, being a junk hauler and being into, we cover a 500,000 person radius, 500,000 people between Dauphin and Cumberland County and York County. They have row homes too. They have small alleyways too. What you don't see is a lot of junk. There's a lot of blight, a lot of illegal dumping. So, getting the word out about ways that people can get rid of their stuff, making sure these corner stores, we talked about that with maybe this group for the summer, for the Y summer thing that's going to be happening up there, getting that word out between those teenagers hitting the corner store and saying, can you help us just keeping a square block cleaned up? And when I was growing up, we gave a little kid a broom and a shovel and paid them $5 maybe to keep your corners clean. And they kind of, that's their entry into entrepreneurship too. So maybe they, befriend a person that comes to their store often and say, hey, keep my corner clean and I'll pay you $10 a week. You know, what does that do for a kid? So there's some things like that, grassroots things we have to work on to make our communities look a lot better. I mean, I pick up trash every single day. It's just something I do. You know, what happened to being block happy? What happened to for taking 2 minutes to keep your neighborhood, clean? Don't step over the trash. Pick it up. You know, that's what I'm into. So really, this having that initiative of keeping Harrisburg beautiful. Been on that, not on the committee recently, but I've loaned our trucks for various projects for Keep Harrisburg, Keep America Beautiful campaigns, and you just see so much stuff that we got to cover. Like I said, we're no different from these rural American spots where they have smaller row homes, but what I see is a lack of I see just there's no trash and the grass is cut. So we got to get to the this home ownership pride, rental pride, Harrisburg pride.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson, and I look forward to having an opportunity to work with you on the development of a corner store ordinance. And we talked about that in the past, and I think that's something that could be very beneficial to the city. So, if you're able to serve, I look forward to being able to work with you on developing that and hopefully being able to get something put on the books. No additional questions. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. And I'll turn it over to any my other colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. Ms. Daniels?
Just, I forgot to ask the last time, but just if you identify any potential conflicts of interest as you sit on the board.
Any conflicts?
Yeah, any conflicts of interest, yeah.
Well, the conflicts I mentioned, the board kind of, some things I do in the community. I'm very, I'm the president of the African American Chamber. I have my own business. So sometimes, being the president of the African American Chamber, I've seen different people on different boards, and they're still able to go after contracts in that same organization. So I asked the question, if an opportunity came up for a Dirty Dog to make money, we're a small business. I have 5 employees, and we keep the doors open. Revenue's down by 35% right now. Can I go and bid, and kind of remove myself from the decision-making process, abstain, but consider my company for something that may be beneficial to the EAC. And I didn't get any objection. Maybe that'll come up later on, but right now, that was my only conflict.
Anything else, Ms. Daniels?
Madam President?
Yes.
So Mr. Nelson, there is the potential for you to have a State Ethics Act conflict with having a contract in a board position, but my office will be happy to walk you through how to avoid that.
Okay.
It can't be no bid contracts and things like that for the EAC, but we can walk you through the process so that you can. No one asks you to volunteer and close your business at the same time, but we want to make sure no one can make a complaint either. So
thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson, and that's all we have for under the Administration Committee. Again, I want to thank you for your willingness to serve, and I hope that you are able to continue to assist the city in cleaning up. And I certainly like your slogan you said about Harrisburg Pride. I certainly would like, when you do the ordinance for the corner store, you may want to include that.
Okay, say no more.
But thank you again. And council members are going to put this on the legislative agenda for tonight for a vote.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a great evening.
You too.
Moving on, council members, to Public Works Committee. I now will turn it over to the Chair of Public Works, and that's Mr. Majors.
Thank you, President Williams. So we have 3 resolutions on the agenda for this work session. We'll start with Resolution 50, a resolution approving the disposition of surplus equipment which has exhausted operations by the Bureau of Fleet Management. Looks like we have Nick on the line. Hello, Nick.
Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. I was hoping you would be able to provide us with a brief overview of the items that are being surplused.
Yes, the items that we have for the Resolution 50 that we're looking at getting rid of are all aging vehicles that have been inoperable for at least the period of 1 year. there is a mix between light duty vehicles, passenger vehicles, and medium duty vehicles, or work vehicles, utility vehicles. The majority of these are actually from the police. We have been getting rid of older Impalas as we've been replacing these, and most of our Dodge Magnums, as well as a mix of other vehicles, as I said. Some are, there's a couple old sanitation units, there's a couple old dump trucks, and a couple old vehicles that were from different departments, such as DBHD or codes.
Okay, great. And then just looking at them, so we are going to be dispossessing most of them either via bid or auction. Is that correct?
Yes, the auction that we did through Gov Deals went very well, and that would be for the light duty vehicles. We also, that was last year, we also did a bid on the larger vehicles, and that seemed to work well for the scrap value or slightly above, people taking them and putting them back into service after they spent the money to repair them. Most of the light duty were individuals from the community and from neighboring communities. Some did actually travel pretty far to come and get the vehicles. We had one person coming from Mississippi to get a old Impala. So there is a market out there for this equipment.
Okay, and then so from that, then most of these vehicles have already been taken out of off of our hands, essentially.
All of the ones that we sold last year were taken off of our hands. Yes.
Okay. All right. And I will now move on to questions from my colleagues. I will start, I guess if I'm looking at the dais, if I'm at my seat, I'll start to my right with Ms. Daniels. Do you have any questions? Okay, seeing none. Then next I'll go to Vice President Allett. Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. President Williams?
I'm sorry, did you?
Do you have any questions, President Williams?
Oh, just one. So these 35 vehicles, our value is only worth to be $2,000. Is that what you're saying, Nick?
No, the approximate value would be, I would say, around $20,000. There might have been a zero that was left off.
Oh yeah, because I was concerned about 35 vehicles that we're disposing of that's only valued at 2,000. Okay, so you're saying about 20,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Majors.
Okay. Thank you. I guess next I will go to Ms. Green. Any questions?
Thank you, Councilman Majors. No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Madsen, any questions?
No questions for me, thanks.
All right, thank you. And then Ms. Bowers, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no additional questions, I will ask that Resolution 50 be placed on the legislative agenda. And thank you, Nick.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on. Next is Resolution 50, Resolution 52 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a reimbursement agreement with Capital Region Water to fund the installation and construction of ADA compliant curb ramps, curb extensions, and other streetscape improvements as a part of Capital Region Water's South Allison Hill Green Stormwater Infrastructure Project. And I don't know who will be answering that. I guess we have Wayne. I see Chris as well. So I guess I'll turn it over to Wayne or Chris.
Yeah, I can handle this one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project has a long history with the city. Back in 2017, the city, at the request of CRW, the city and some other stakeholders met on this project, which CRW already has under construction. But it started back in 2017. It involves green infrastructure on Dairy Street, on 14th Street, Kinnetiny, and 15th Street. So it's that vicinity there. And the city had at that time budgeted in the 2018 budget for $150,000 for 18 ramps. So we would contribute $150,000 towards the construction of 18 ADA ramps along this section of Dairy Street. We did encumber the funds back in 2018 by a purchase order, but more recently CRW had desired there would be a formal agreement between the city and Capital Region Water for that reimbursement rather than just reimbursing them as a vendor. And so that's what's before council now, or before the city now, is a formalized reimbursement agreement, sort of more or less what was done for 3rd Street and the parks and things like that, rather than just a purchase order type situation.
Okay. Thank you. And again, I just want to make sure I have the number of ramps correct. So it's you said 18 ramps for 100.
So, yep. Let me clarify. On 14th Street, there'll be 8 ramps. So 4 crossing Dairy, 2 on each side of 14th Street, and then 4 crossing 14th Street. So like 2 ramps per quadrant times 4 quadrants is 8 ramps. On Kinnatinney's just a T intersection. So you would just have the 2 ramps along Dairy crossing Kittatinny. And then on 15th, it would be 2 ramps per quad times 4 quadrants. So a total of 8 ramps. So a total of 18 ramps on all 3 sites.
Okay. All right, great. And do we have an estimated time of completion from Capital Region Water? Since I know you said they're currently under construction.
I believe that construction project is anticipate October of this year. In fact, I'm sure of it because they're operating under a PennDOT highway occupancy permit, which typically has a short window.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now move on to questions, and I will go in reverse order. So I'll start with Ms. Bowers. Do you have any questions on Resolution 52?
No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Madsen, any questions?
None for me, thanks.
Ms. Green, questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, I'll go to President Williams. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Majors. Wayne, I thought we did this about 4 or 5 years ago. We installed and constructed ADA compliant curb ramps and curb extensions throughout the city of Harrisburg. Why is it necessary that we are reimbursing CRW to or assisting in reimbursing them into doing this construction and installation?
So we install ADA ramps wherever necessitated by pavement projects. So what we do every year, we've probably been averaging about 200 ramps per year, ADA ramps per year of the city. In this vicinity, CRW was looking for a project partner. So we view this as an opportunity to a typical ramp costs the city about $10,000 to install. So if you look at 18 ramps times 10,000, that's 180,000. Here, CRW is offering to deliver the project. They will be doing some sidewalk work anyway as part of their green infrastructure. And this will enable the city to then come back in the future and pave, for instance, South 15th Street, South 14th Street, perhaps Kinnatinney, without having to do those ramps. So it's we just took advantage of that opportunity, to collaborate with CRW. It's work that it perhaps enabled them to complete their project, but also sets us up for the future for, resurfacing those roadways without having to dig up their work and redo those ramps.
So is that the only place, is that the only area that they're going to be doing resurfacing, or is there going to be other areas in the city of Harrisburg that we will be doing an agreement with them to do resurfacing?
So they're not doing the resurfacing. That would be part of our project at a later date. They're doing, well, I shouldn't say that. They are doing some roadway reconstruction as far as
construction in some areas.
Yeah. So the 2 projects that are currently in the pipeline is this one, and then up near on 6th Street, on North 6th Street. That project, I think probably next year construction season. We've been collaborating with them. We don't have that budgeted. We asked them if we could possibly use CDBG funds, since there's CDBG funds is a good source of funding for ADA type improvements. But we have not gotten far enough to know where we would budget that, or what the cost would be on that project. But they do have they've identified, I participated in a workshop with CRW where they identified areas in the city that they want to make certain green infrastructure improvements. And they're obviously looking for opportunities to work with the city. The other part is, if the city could, collaborate even further, like if we could have done paving as part of this and stuff, it would even make it more cost effective for both parties involved. So that's what we're trying to work towards in the future. For instance, they just submitted some work to do some water line and gas line work on Crescent Street near Berry Hill intersection, where we just did some resurfacing. And those degradation fees are like $40,000 for the work, because they missed their opportunity, pre-paving. So we just have to do more, better collaboration. Will save us all a lot of money. It'll save the residents a lot of headaches having to see a road ripped up more than once.
Okay. Do you expect it to exceed $150,000, or that's the?
So the bid's already awarded to Shiloh Paving, and my understanding is like 140 some thousand. But the way I understand the agreement will be structured from the city side is a maximum of 150,000, which is what was budgeted and encumbered.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Majors.
Thank you. Mr. Allett, any questions?
Yeah, just real quick. And Wayne, I'm sorry if you covered this as I was trying to read through the resolution when you were answering Wanda's questions, but this is a Capital Region Water project that's already underway, correct?
Correct.
Now, I thought, when it was like a PPL or any other type of utility project in general, that if they were doing any type of curb cutting at all, they'd have to put in the ADA compliant curb cuts going forward. So I'm wondering why we are compelled to reimburse them for something that I would think other utilities would have to do as part of the project.
No, you're right. If we had just let CRW, do their work, they would have, and they alter a pedestrian access route, they would have to bring that route back into compliance. But what CRW did in this case is they met with us, they met with other stakeholders and said, this is the project we'd like to do. We can't necessarily fund it without contributions from other sources. Would the city want to participate in this project as a sort of a joint project, sort of like a Third Street, but they would do the delivery, or our parks and playgrounds that we collaborated with CRW. So this was always a collaboration. And, at that point, the city's, the position was, well, we can try and budget it through an ADA improvement, which we would have to pay, if we were going to resurface Kittatinny 14th or 15th. And so that was the approach. None of the other utilities have approached us for, like, in that partnership, spirit of partnership. We'd be willing to entertain such partnerships. I think it would make a lot of sense. Like I said, ripping road up once and collaborating. I guess I shouldn't say that. UGI has rescheduled some of their work in anticipation of our paving, and we've made it sort of cost effective for them in that sometimes we don't require final restoration. We do like a base to grade and then mill overlay. You'll see that on 2nd Street this summer. So that's as far as the collaboration goes with UGI, but CRW approached it as a true partnership. And before they even went out to bid, before they even funded the money, they had our commitment in the terms of a purchase order.
All right, thank you so much for adding that clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Ms. Daniels, do you have any questions?
And just clarification. So you said CRW had started working on this. So there's some of the 150 that was already used, or did I misunderstand that?
They have mobilized, their contractor has mobilized, and they're currently doing excavation work on this project. We have not, they have not sought any reimbursement of any of the funds. Right now, they've had a purchase order since 2018. Like I said, it was budgeted in 2018. We encumbered it right away so that it was, there for them. But more recently, they wanted a formalized agreement, not just a purchase order. But they chose not to delay the project, and so yes, they have moved forward with the project.
And how did y'all come up with the 150 number?
So that's a good question. I think it was a 10,000 ramp, 10,000 ramp times 15. And I'm not sure how we got a $30,000 savings. I think that might have been the design. So yeah, it's a savings to us. I think when we were, going back to 2018, I think when we were in the discussions, 10,000 ramps are pretty good ballpark. And then, but they were already doing the design work, CRW that was, as part of, their cost, because they were doing all the design of the green infrastructure and stuff. So, we discounted it some for the design work, benefit of collaboration, I guess.
And do you have a sense of what the portion of their costs are?
Oh, the total project cost? I do not have their bid tabulation, but I can certainly request that. It was a $1 million+ project. It's a big project.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions from any members of council? All right, seeing none and hearing none, I'd ask that resolution 52 be placed on the agenda for a vote. Oh, yeah, okay. And then lastly in committee is resolution 53 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the township of Swatera for the purpose of allowing the city to use a compost facility owned and operated by the township of Swatera. Looks like we have Chris here. Will you be?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Take it away, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, and also if I believe Aaron's also on the call, so if he wanted to speak, well, I can just mention what happened with this. Deputy Director West and I had met with Swatara Township back in the winter because as you know, we currently use their composting facility for our leaf and yard waste. And they had called a meeting with all of the various townships and municipalities from the area which currently use their site. So that was Harrisburg, Steelton, High Spire, and Pembroke, as well as themselves. And there was a discussion about how they were going to have to get formalized agreements with all of the municipalities which currently use their facility. Then there would have to be some sort of a payment made for doing that because they have to replace some of their more expensive equipment, such as a horizontal grinder, which is needed to operate the facility. And that's what this this agreement came from.
Okay. And I will start with questions, and I guess I'll start with Ms. Daniels. Do you have any questions on resolution 53? You're still muted.
So just in general, how did y'all arrive at like values?
Well, that was the amount, the $2,945.10 per year was what was proposed to us by Swatara Township. There was a discussion during the original meeting, but there wasn't an exact dollar amount that was decided on. That was put in the contract when it was sent over to us. Both myself, Dave West, from the discussions that we had, thought it was very reasonable.
How did you, I guess, what other points of reference did you use for like assessing reasonableness?
Well, so for example, I had mentioned that the Swatara Township is going to have to try and replace a horizontal grinder. as a piece of equipment that's needed to grind down large stumps and trees. That piece of equipment can cost anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million. And so for them to only be asking for less than $3,000 a year from each of the municipalities, which are utilizing their facility, and the amount of material that we're taking there, both from Harrisburg, but now also we're the ones who are taking the material from Steelton, because we're doing the trash and recycling collection for Steelton as well and taking it to their facility. And on the understanding of what it generally costs to operate a composting facility, and the expense for not only the horizontal grinder, but other types of equipment that are needed. We've had to do this budgeting ourselves internally for the attempt to try to develop our own composting site. And so that is why I was indicating that I thought that amount was very reasonable.
So is there like a market where people kind of, right, because you're making the calculation of reasonableness compared to if we were doing it ourselves, but is there a market for like
oh yeah, so there are other one of
customer?
Sure, no, I understand what you're saying. So one of the other locations that I'm familiar with, the Northampton composting site, which is in the Allentown area, they're an authority which takes material from approximately 40 different municipalities at this point in time. It was originally created by 5-member townships and or cities, and then they allowed additional municipalities to be added on over time. Each of the budget and all of the information to operate that facility was given to me by Bill Beddix, which is the individual who operates it. And the amount of money that each of the municipalities which utilize that facility, the amount of money they put in per year is more around $32,000 to $35,000 a year.
Okay, and that's like the closest.
Yeah, like, so because it was the same sort of the meeting was sort of looking at the 5 municipalities in the same way that larger site had originally come together with 5-member municipalities, and the amount of money that the original organization, the original municipalities are putting in has stayed relatively the same with only slight increases over time. And so this is still far less than what they're paying into.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilwoman Daniels, just so for your clarification, we spoke to the attorneys for Sotarra Township, and the driver of this is their eligibility for state grants. They had to have their application required them to have these in place, or otherwise they couldn't submit. So it wasn't really an economic decision on their interactions with other municipalities. It was their eligibility to receive the larger grants for equipment. They had to have an agreement in place to do it.
Okay, I guess I'll move on to Mr. Allett. Any questions?
Just a point of clarification. So I understand that negotiations have gone on with the township. Has the township supervisors they've already approved, or the township commissioners, have they already approved this as well?
To my knowledge, yes, but Neil may know more about that than me. I turned this over to him once I received it.
My answer is I don't know if they've actually voted. They sent these to all the municipalities. It was their draft. It was their proposal, and they had a very short window. They needed a July 20th signature date from everybody, and they know that it has to be approved by them as well as us. So I don't know if they did it yet, but we're basically approving what they proposed, and they were going to do their own ordinance as well.
So it would still by technicality, would still have to be voted on by their commissioners.
No, I'm saying that it may have already happened. I don't know the date that they meet in July. I don't know if it already happened or it didn't happen. You know, they understood both sides had to vote on it in order for it to be effective.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, President Williams, any questions?
just want to say thank you to Mr. Johnson and Chris for finding a place for us to dispose of our leaf and yard waste. My understanding, the agreement with Susquehanna did not work out. Are you able to tell us about that, Mr. Neff? Is that why you reached out to the Township of Swadara?
Well, that I maybe would need to defer to Neil again, because my understanding regarding the zoning board hearing ruling, which is I believe what you're referring to, is that we're in the process of appealing that decision.
Right. Okay.
If I may, Council President, if I may jump in there real quick. Actually, how we got involved with Swadara Township, it has nothing to do with Susquehanna. How we got involved with Swadara Township was because of the fact that we stopped taking our woody waste and everything like that. DEP stopped us from taking it down to the incinerator. So again, and also it was costing us a lot of money to go to the incinerator. So what we did was, and I'm gonna give kudos to Dave West. We went over to Swadara Township, talked to their public works director over there, and basically they allowed us to take our leaves and everything over there. So that's how we got involved with Swadara Township. It wasn't because of Susquehanna. It had nothing to do with that.
No, I was inquiring as to, I know that you were trying to reach an agreement with them. So I was wondering how that intergovernmental agreement worked out. It phased out, or, that's why you turned to Swadara Township. So I didn't know what the conclusion of that agreement was.
Right. Well, again, that's why we need our own composting site. People are, our citizens don't realize, like, for real, when we have major storms, we really don't have nowhere to take these big sticks at. When Parks and Rec maintenance, they take down all those trees and stuff. Really, we don't have nowhere to take it at. We have to kind of like rely on Ziegler Brothers or, Swadara Township right now, because we don't have the 19th Street project property no more. That's owned by Loxwama. So we had to clean all that up. Remember, we spent a great deal of money getting that grinder, and the same thing that Chris is talking about, the Swadara Township asking us to, spend like almost $3,000 to utilize with other municipalities. But that's why we need our own. We need to be self-sufficient, but thank God that they're allowing us to actually, put our woody waste and everything over there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson, and please extend thank you to Mr. West for all his efforts in, making sure that this comes to fruition. That's all I have, Mr. Major.
Thank you. Yeah, so Councilman Madsen, Mr. Madsen, any questions?
Yeah, I guess. So I see the terms of the agreement last for 2 years. I guess my question is, given that the site the city would like to have is impending litigation, say we were to reach a resolution and it was in our favor and we could build a compost facility where we'd like to, how would that work with, if it was prior to the end of this 2-year agreement, how would all that work? Could we opt out of it and then once ours was built, use it? Or is it likely to take the litigation plus building our own facility going to take beyond 2 years?
It is hard to predict the length of the litigation. It's simply, we just changed judges in the county court. There's another application in front of the zoning board. And unless the tone changes, I would expect whatever the outcome is, the township to appeal it to a higher court. So 2 years is not an unreasonable time to expect to still be in it unless an agreement is reached. The city's also been in discussions with the receiver for the school district. If you remember, it's their land, the Harrisburg School District land that we're talking about. So 2 years is not out of the question, but in terms of then getting that facility up and running, if we win, it's hard to imagine we would win, purchase what we needed and have it up and running in 2 years.
Okay. Is somebody speaking or is that just background?
Yeah, someone has their phone on or their, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry, Dave.
Okay, yeah. And then the other question I have is, are there any other potential alternative sites to building a compost facility so we can get a little more autonomy and independence?
Well, I can tell you that that John Rarig and I did try to look into a couple of alternative options. we did like as a backup, and we did contact the landowners of a site that we thought would be suitable in Steelton. They indicated that they were open to the idea, and we haven't heard back from them. I've tried to contact them multiple times. Well, under the circumstance with the agreement from Swatara that we currently have, and with it seemed like that was going to be suitable for the time being, which is why I didn't try to go back to that other entity a third time.
Okay. Well, yeah, if another site pops up and it's agreeable to what we'd like, I think we should consider it. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilperson Green, Ms. Green, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. And lastly, Councilperson Bowers, Ms. Bowers, any questions?
Thank you. Councilman Madsen asked my question regarding the 2-year length of the agreement, but I have a follow-up regarding the termination. I noticed that the township may terminate the agreement upon 60 days. Do we have any rights in that, or how does that the termination piece work here? You're muted.
Both parties have the right to give notice. And I think it's going to be driven, like a lot of things, by money. If the township needs some other path to get its equipment, they have to think about where they are.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I would ask that we add resolution 53 to the agenda. As was mentioned, I want to thank, Dave West, Chris, Mr. Aaron Johnson, and the Public Works staff for being able to find something for us to be able to properly dispose of our woody waste as we are continuing to work through the process of attempting to have our own composting facility. So thank you, and that concludes the actions for the Public Works Committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. We now will move on to Building and Housing Committee. Our committee chairwoman is Ms. Bowers. I'll turn it over to Ms. Bowers.
President Williams, the Building and Housing Committee has 2 resolutions for consideration this evening. Mr. Petrosky, if you wouldn't mind reading in resolutions 54 and 55, please.
For Resolution 54 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the National Endowment for Arts Our Town Grant Program for up to $150,000 to fund the installation of murals at the end of Derry Street in Allison Hill in partnership with Sprocket Mural Works and Tri-County Community Action. Resolution 55 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a redevelopment assistance capital program grant application of up to $9 million to fund renovations of the Martin Luther King Jr. Government Center located at 10 North 2nd Street, Harrisburg, PA 17101.
Thank you. I believe Ms. Vollmer is on the line on behalf of the administration.
Yes, good evening, Councilwoman Bowers. Good evening, Council. Hope everyone's well tonight. Regarding the NEA grant application for a mural project in Allison Hill, that is an interesting grant. It's an NEA grant. The city itself is not the applicant. We're not allowed to apply, but we work in concert with nonprofit and arts organizations in the city. Obviously, as the host city of the project, our enthusiastic support and collaboration is a good thing for the application. So I've spoken at length with Jeff Kopis of Sprocket Mural Works and Julie Walter from Tri-County Community Action. They're very excited. The project they're looking at doing is installing murals on the Mulberry Street Bridge. And the amount that they would apply for, we're working through this with them and with the NEA. We're required to apply in increments of 25,000, 50,000, 75, 100, 125, or 150. The resolution is written for up to 150. The project requires a 1-to-1 match, which would have to come from either Sprocket or Tri-County Action. So we're talking through with them how they can raise that match, and other grants that they are applying for. Sprocket Mural Works is always is fundraising for their mural, their annual mural festival. So looking to apply for is $50,000 to the grant with a $50,000 match from donated supplies, donated labor, and fundraising to be able to put murals on both sides of the Mulberry Street Bridge. And if they can't make that goal, then we could scale it back by about half and do just one side. But that's the project. It's beautiful and very exciting, and that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying the incremental application, because I was looked at the range between the 25 up to 150,000. So just a quick question in response to, if they can't do both sides and they scale it back, then would the total just be 25,000?
It would. It's sort of a funny grant in that you cannot ask for what you actually want. You have to sort of ask in these increments. So I think ideally they'd like to ask for about 40 because they really need about 80, but that's bringing it in like bare bones, like the smallest possible budget for both sides of the bridge.
Okay.
Absolutely right. So either we ask for 50 to do both sides of the bridge, or we ask for 25 to do one side. And it really comes down to how much match we can have in hand when we go to submit the application.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just going to go in the order on my computer screen in gallery view. So Vice President Allett, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'm happy that this is happening. So thank you for all the work on this.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Councilman Bowers. I have one question. Maybe I missed it. Are these new murals that will be painted, or are these the murals that were previously there?
Yeah, it's a great question. These would be new murals, but it's sort of in the tradition of the murals that were there and wanting to put those back up. And Sprocket, they're such an interesting organization, and they noted when the murals were up before they had to be taken down, there was no graffiti on that bridge. And so they're really committed to having more murals there because they know people love it. They know people respect it. And also is committed to, if anyone does, they call it tag, anything that they do, they're committed to going and fixing it themselves. So the sort of maintenance issue is not really, it's not a burden for the city, but they are passionately committed. So these would be also part of their project is a lot of community engagement, meetings, community meetings, like vetting ideas with the community and what they might like to see as murals. They also have, as part of their projects, they always have days where the community can come in and kids, any random person can come and help paint the mural. So it's really inclusive.
All right, thank you. Just one follow-up. You might not know the answer to this. Is it a reason why the old murals weren't put back up? I know it was a lot of push when they first came down to try to get them back up.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can gladly get it for you and see like where those murals are and what the condition of them is, and maybe we could use them somewhere else.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you for all your hard work.
They are painted on giant pieces of concrete. That's why they couldn't go back. So.
Guess that makes sense.
Thank you, Councilwoman Green. Councilman Matson.
No questions for me. Sounds like a great project. Thanks for all your help.
Sure.
Okay. Councilman Majors.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green asked one of my questions regarding the murals that were previously located on the Mulberry Street Bridge. And then I guess additionally, I guess this question is probably not for Rebecca, but probably for Sprocket Mural Works. What is their, I mean, you mentioned them wanting to engage the community on what a mural looks like, but what kind of engagement is there to ensure that members of that community who are artists, because we have a lot of creative folks in our city, have an opportunity to come up with a design for those murals? I mean, it would be a shame to not have our community's input on what they look like, given that we did have murals there in the past that had community input, had faces of members of our community on them. Yeah, I still have a photo of one from, I think a magnet on my refrigerator from those murals. And, I know some of the people that are, whose faces were depicted in those murals. So just wanted to see what that type of engagement is going to look like from Sprocket, if you know that, Rebecca.
I can, it's another great question. I can partially answer that, but you're right. It would be great to have a conversation with Sprocket. Also, the application is due, the first part is due August 6th, and then the second part is due by August 18th. So there's time for us to get together and talk some more if you like. I have seen a draft of Sprocket murals, their perspective for this project. And they plan to have a number of public meetings to put out different ideas of what art that could be put up. They're interesting. Their project description, they talk about, they often bring in people from outside of the city because they think they have, an interesting perspective and fresh eyes and all of that. But they freely will say that has benefits and downsides, which is, benefits are you get sort of a new face. Sometimes you can get kind of like celebrity mural workers. However, they also know that we have tons of talent in Harrisburg and it's very local. So they're looking, when they would go to, they sort of put out like a call, like we would do an RFI or an RFP. They put out a call for artists and then they interview artists and they talk with them, they talk about their vision and their history. And then they go to the community and say, and sort of present the different artists and talk about what they can do and what they might have in mind and get input. So they're totally open to having local folks or having folks from outside or a mix of the two. If you'd like, I could send you that draft. I only did it myself yesterday.
Yeah, no, that'd be appreciated, because I know with a lot of the murals that they've done in the city, they're all received very well, but there are, like you said, a lot of outside artists that come in, and I know a few of our local artists that had an opportunity to lead or work in conjunction with one of these murals. So I just want to make sure that we still have that. You can send that, and I'll also reach out to Jeff and a few others to make sure we have some our local talent.
Absolutely.
No further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. President Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Are you aware, Rebecca, if Sprocket Mural has received any in-kind donations to date?
For this project, no.
Okay.
They're working on their fundraising for their annual mural festival.
Okay.
Some in-kind labor, some in-kind donation of the lifts and some of the materials.
Okay. Are there any other areas in the city that Sprocket is looking to do murals at?
I'm sure there are. I don't know. We've only been talking with them about this project.
So have a better idea around the second August date that you mentioned?
I'm so sorry. Could you say that again?
I said, would you have a better idea as to what they intend to do within the city limits by the second meeting in August? I know you said that there was 2 dates that you've given.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So when you find out that information, just could you forward that to the city council member, please?
Sure. I sure will. You bet.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for reaching out to do this project. It certainly does my heart good to see murals up in the city of Harrisburg, especially those who have contributed to the city.
You bet. I love it too. I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers.
You're welcome. Thank you. Finally, Councilwoman Daniels.
Everyone else asked the questions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. One final question, Ms. Vollmer, in reference to the public meetings. I'm guessing they will be between the 2 application windows, or are they looking to do something this month?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, if we were to get this money, if Sprocket were to get this money, there's a 2-year window to spend it. So once they got the grant, then they would go about the whole process of looking for artists, having the meetings, talking to folks. So it wouldn't happen. Yeah, it'd be probably next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any further questions or clarification? Okay, I'd request, well, I know that it is on our legislative session agenda, but I'd ask that my colleagues support this worthwhile resolution 54. Ms. Vollmer, will you be addressing resolution 55 as well?
I can. Mark Woolley is on the line, I believe, as well. And yeah, I think he's a bit better versed in the project than I am, but I'm here too.
Mr. Woolley?
Good evening, council members. I am presenting this resolution and this project because it really stems from a couple of priorities that the administration and I believe City Council also share and hold in common regarding City Hall. And one of the things that we had looked at, and this has been for about a year, as we looked at the physical plant of City Hall, is that we noticed that there are a couple of things. One, there are accessibility barriers in City Hall, which tend to limit citizen participation in the legislative process. And in particular, it's the elderly and those with unique abilities who are most impacted by these accessibility barriers. And those barriers are in the bathrooms and also in City Council chambers itself, allowing people to take part in the legislative process. In addition, there are some important economic development synergies that I think we're missing in some of the aged departments, especially the ones that are outwardly facing, such as codes, planning, and DBHD. And having this project, which is really applying for a grant to help us renovate the City Hall project, would enable us to really focus on those departments and increase the synergies between those departments in order to better serve internal customers and external customers. And then last, but certainly not least, as we look at the building itself, we would like to use these funds, and Rebecca will talk about the process of the RCAP. I'll give you kind of the driving policy behind it, is to increase the visibility of a city hall that is named after Martin Luther King. And in particular in these times, you'll note that there aren't that many city halls in the United States that are named after Martin Luther King. If we take a look at the atrium and some of the plans that we have for it, because we've enlisted the architectural services of Chris Dawson, and we have those renderings and we can make those available to you. You see there's a vast improvement and a nod to the legacy of Martin Luther King. And I'll mention one part of the project that is of particular interest, and I think is kind of embodies where we're going with this project. In the front atrium, off to the left as you come through the doorways, there will be an incubator space where we will encourage folks to apply to take over that space and develop it for a small business and stay there for a limited amount of time, but enough for them to get wind under their wings, and then for us to jettison them, not jettison them, but put them out into the marketplace. But a recurring theme is really to have that space incubate economic development drivers, and we're going to change the face of City Hall with those three elements in mind. Really, just to reiterate, it's really to eliminate accessibility barriers, to provide economic development drivers by reorientation of departments and really focusing on synergies between departments, and then to increase the visibility and pay homage to Martin Luther King in that endeavor. So with that said, we had talked about this for a number of months, and we were going to use some CDBG funding to eliminate those barriers. We're looking for multiple sources in order to do this project because we're thinking about it in phases. The first phase is about 2.2 million. Second phase is about 1.7 million, and so on, up to about a total of $9 million for all 4 phases. So we have to be creative in the source of funds that we intend to use, because we would like to be able to have grant funding, federal funding, be the main drivers of this project in order to do those 3 things that I had just mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vollmer, did you have anything to add before I begin questions?
Sure, thank you. Just what Mark was saying, the sort of the logistics of how this grant works. It's a sort of politically driven. It comes out of the governor's office, and they announce it when they're ready to. We've been anticipating the opening for quite a while. We now believe it's opening July 13th. On July 13th, we have 1 month to submit the sort of a pre-application. It's fairly basic. It's sort of, who we are, what we want to do, what our budget is, what our project is, but it's kind of like 10,000 foot high level. Once we get the grant, whatever it might be, and we do, we know to manage our expectations that very few of these RCAPs or RACPs, some people call them different things, are fully funded, but once we are awarded a grant, then the second phase begins, and then we really move into the business plan and the budget, and then we work really closely with the people at DCED. They work with us on our business plan. Our match will be the appraised value of the building. But once we're awarded the money, there's quite a strong connection with DCED and sort of how we move forward, and everybody making sure that our budget is robust and correct, and our project, our guidelines and our deadlines is all very well defined. So the first hurdle starts with just putting the application in and giving a really kind of compelling description of the project and why it's important, and the budget and why that budget is what it needs to be. And we're in a good position to defend our budget because we've got the plans and we know what we need to do. So it's kind of, it's a bit of like a 2-step shuffle. So once we get through the first step, then the real work begins once we get our grant, given the grant.
Okay, thank you. I'll begin this time with Councilwoman Daniels. Do you have any questions?
Just generally, how flexible is this? Because it sounds, so we had the plans for the building that I think y'all had shown us on a PowerPoint. I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, but is it flexible enough that we're able to make adjustments should, not knowing what happens with COVID, should we have to go into different kind of building structure to accommodate for that?
Without a doubt, we envision this, I should say, as a 4-phase project. First phase being the city council chambers, the atrium, and the incubator space, and bathrooms. So those spaces are less subject to, I guess, changing dynamics of how we are now doing business, just because of the space itself. But in phases 2, 3, and 4, as we continue to go through this pandemic, if we need to make changes, we are able to do that.
And then just a general comment, like, I think it's great that you have, information and honor the legacy of Dr. King, but I find it more useful when municipal buildings and park spaces have information about leaders from the community that had history in that community. So, not to forget the local folks, and especially we have such extraordinary history since we're so close to DC. I mean, a lot of our people have a national impact or had a national impact. So just making sure that the local folks don't get erased in the process.
Well, they won't. The HM space is going to be an interactive space. We envision it to be open to artists to showcase their work, and also space dedicated to the history of Harrisburg in general. But with regard to that, we're going to look for input in order to make sure that we're hitting all the right notes with regard to that. But there's plenty of space and plenty of thought being put into that.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors.
Thank you. So as which was mentioned by I think it was Ms. Palmer, about how the process goes, do we have any are we seeking any letters from our state elected officials to help us partner with us on this?
So for that, I'm going to let the mayor handle that aspect of it. I think he's well informed as to how we're going to maneuver those shoals.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Majors. We're working with Maverick Strategies on a lobbying strategy for the grant. It certainly includes our elected representatives, and we think we have a pretty broad-based amount of support for this, and we're very optimistic.
Okay, great. Because seeing how awards from this funding source has gone in the past for projects in and around our area, all of those projects have had support from either our state representative or a state senator, or both of them. So I just want to make sure that those are included, because they will hopefully, that will also help us in our, hopefully that can be beneficial to us in our efforts to be able to secure funding for this project. And I'll note that, Harrisburg has, forget the exact year, but it was the building was named after Dr. King quite a bit ago by a former city council, and Market Street for a while used to be named after Dr. King. I grew up on King Boulevard. That was my address, right on Market Street. So look forward to being able to hopefully see some of this project come to fruition. Yep, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Madsen.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, overall, it sounds like a worthwhile pursuit. I guess my question is, and I appreciate a lot of the progressive or out of the box thinking in terms of how we would allocate and use the dollars. But to piggyback off Councilperson Daniel's point, given what COVID has done to the workplace and how it likely will probably change how we work in the future, often the city can't compete as much with the private sector or the state in terms of salaries and things of that nature. Do you think it's possible when we look at designs, we frame it around potentially more telework? I know a lot of folks in the future may be interested in pursuing or working using telework maybe once or twice a week versus coming in every day and doing commutes and things like that. Do you think we could repurpose or change the way some aspects of our offices are used so that it would accommodate more type of telework?
I think there's a number of possibilities, but some of what's driving the current design as we get into phase 2 through 4 is really to address the air handlers as well. in the building, which if you read anything about the COVID, that's being a bigger, HVAC systems are a bigger part of being able to contain the virus. But to your point about the design and looking forward to telecommute, we're doing a number of things with regard to that. First off, we are making sure that we are moving away from our old antiquated system, commuter system, so that we'll be able to drive a lot of customer traffic to our website, which we're currently in the process of redesigning as well. So taking that into consideration, one, external customers, allowing them to do business online, decrease the traffic in the building. Also looking at the building itself right now, if we look at some of the workspace, I think the workspace on a number of floors is really compacted, and really this design spreads it out so that those who are in the building are naturally by its design socially distant as compared to now. So the idea is one, to do that, and then on phase 4, which is basically the fourth floor, is have a large community space that's available for events, but it provides enough space for social distancing as well. So the design itself, if you look back at the design, really clears out a lot of the I'll call it clutter, and really social distances the desk and the functions from each other.
Okay, thank you. And then
Sorry.
That's okay. One last question I had is, could the dollars be allocated to another potential space that may need some upgrades, either public works or I know some folks in Uptown are interested in some sort of police substation located there. Could potentially some of the dollars be used for any of those endeavors?
So and I'll defer to Rebecca on the process, but with this process and trying to get this grant, they look favorably upon projects that are shovel ready or close to shovel ready. So we are past the design phase. We have, absent this COVID crisis, we were prepared to start bidding out the work in March or April for the work on the bathrooms. So we were prepared to go, and I believe, and Rebecca, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we received points for our ability to hurriedly get underway and construction. So not to say that we couldn't talk about other facilities in terms of being able to redesign their spaces or have another substation, as it were. But this, these are grants that are utilizing what we have currently, and we have some of the money, especially on the federal side, it sunsets. And because we did some reassessing and we looked at the accounts in DBHD, some of these funds will be sunsetting that will enable us to eliminate the accessibility barriers that we were talking about for those with unique abilities.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, President Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Good evening, Mr. Woolley. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, President?
I'm certainly encouraged that you've listened over the last year and a half that I would like to see some renovations done to this building. I concur with Mr. Majors, and I also would like the building to continue to keep and honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, and suggesting that we have a plaque that will be in the atrium, and it will identify residents of Harrisburg who have made a notable contribution to this city. I don't have any questions. I've read the action resolution, and so therefore I just wonder, when will we start if we do and we are awarded the grant? When would renovations begin?
Yesterday.
Okay.
As soon as possible. We're really looking for, I don't know the time frame, and it's going to be dependent upon when the grants are awarded, but maybe I'm a little too excited about the project, but I as soon as we can, we would like to begin the process.
Okay, so when is the deadline for the grant to be submitted to the Commonwealth?
So it's August 13th. The window opens July 13th. We should have all of our materials ready almost immediately. We're already putting them together now. So we have a 1 month window to submit the pre-application.
Okay, and when will you know when the grant is eligible for receivership for the city or not? How long would that process take? Do you know?
My guess would be in the late fall, probably November, October, November.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Wooler, and thank you, Ms. Palmer. That's all the questions I have, Ms. Bowers.
President Williams. Councilwoman Green.
Most of the questions I have been asked already, so I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Finally, Vice President Allen.
Hi, too. Everyone did a great job asking the questions I had on my list to ask, so I'm good right now too. So thank you.
Thank you all. Considering there are no more questions, I would request that Resolution 56 of 2020 be added to our legislative session agenda. This concludes the work of the Building and Housing Committee. Thank you, President Williams.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Moving on to public comment. Mr. Petrosky, do we have any public comment this evening?
We have a lot of public comment. However, if you would like me to wait to the legislative session.
Okay.
It's nothing in relation to anything that we discussed here.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, moving on, council members, I'm asking for an adjournment, please.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. The Harrisburg City Council work session of July 7, 2020 is now adjourned. We will immediately move on to the legislative session. Thank you. Good evening, Harrisburg. We are now going to go into our legislative session for Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:49 p.m. Mr. Petrosky, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett.
Present, sorry.
Ms. Bowers.
Present.
Ms. Daniels.
Here.
Ms. Green.
Present.
Mr. Mattson.
Here.
Mr. Majors.
Here, sorry.
Ms. Williams.
Present. Thank you very much, Mr. Petrosky. Before we move any further, I would just want to announce that we had Harrisburg City Council had an executive session on Monday, July the 6th, 2020 at 5:45 p.m. to discuss legal issues. Moving on to invocation. Councilman Bowers, would you please do the invocation for me this evening?
Sure, thank you. Would everyone please take a moment to just take a deep breath and remember everyone that is currently experiencing and continues to experience the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that's neighbors or family friends that you know. Let's please continue to keep everyone in our thoughts and prayers, as well as our public works employees and first responders. Let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bowers. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Mattson, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson.
Thank you.
Moving on, council members, to communications. We have none this evening. And we'll move on to courtesy of the floor. Mr. Petrosky, do we have some comments?
Yes, bear with me here. First, we have a statement. I'm not sure if we have any representatives still from the EAC, if they want to read their statement, but I received an email from the EAC that would like to issue a statement. And I saw a couple people. I'm not sure if they wanted to read it or not. If not, I can.
Is there anyone here from the Environmental Advisory Council? Go ahead, please, Mr. Petrosky.
Okay. The tumultuous events of this past year have brought to light the strong undercurrents of the institutional and individual racism in the country. The confluence of the COVID-19 pandemic, a severe economic repression, the public awakening to systemic police brutality in predominantly Black communities have unleashed a wave of protests and demands for change. The names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Atiana Jefferson, Aura Rosser, Stephen Clark, Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray are people that should not have lost their lives through unnecessary force of violence by hands of the police. This is time to reflect on not only the silence and inaction that has plagued this country for decades and the devastating loss of life from this inaction, but also time to reimagine our communities and call for systemic change. The Environmental Advisory Council of the City of Harrisburg acknowledges that our communities of color have suffered far too long under excessive police force. Feeling safe within our neighborhoods is a human right. We also acknowledge that it is human right to have access to healthy, affordable food, clean air and water, and quality education. Within the City of Harrisburg, we have neighborhoods that exist within these rights, neighborhoods with food deserts, neighborhoods without access to efficient, reliable public transportation, neighborhoods exposed to high level of air pollution and school lacking basic resources. There is no mistake that the death of George Floyd is symbolic of a system that keeps its knee on the necks of communities of color that struggle to live. We recognize that this is an opportunity to lift the knee and imagine a city that has healthy, affordable food in all neighborhoods, safe, efficient, reliable transportation in all neighborhoods, quality education for all youth. And we invite our city to think of solutions to reimagine our communities to be a leader in change, reform, and creativity, to create something different that others want to exemplify, to follow, to become a leader in the nation and show how small cities can provide solutions, to not look elsewhere but within ourselves for the answers. It will require courage, leadership, and heart, but there are answers, there are solutions. We have them within us waiting to be uncovered and given light. Respectfully, the EAC Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Is any other additional comments?
Yes.
Please read those.
Okay, the following statement was sent by the following people, and I'll read it as soon as I read all the names of the people that sent it. It's Melissa Hunsberger, Jane Black, Aaron O'Day, Brand Bansom, Lauren Fisher, Leslie Hall, Stephen Williams, Liz Herman, Danielle Holt, Megan Weaver, Amy Ennis, Andre Remanov, Zach Corbin, Andy Hughes, Ann Leonhardt, Elizabeth Curtis, Angel Fox, Tessa Flanagan, Erica Eisenacher, Brian Mathers, Sean Brandon, Lavon Eby, Louis Marvin, Jen Bender, Autumn Anderson, Marissa Italy, Anna White, Alex Sheriffs, Jane Buckwalk, Jen Hartman, Kamika Campbell, and Richely Peacock.
Okay.
It says, to the elected members of City Council, we write in effort to expand on recent concerns heard from council and community members regarding the Community Advisory Committee proposal. The proposal outline continues to highlight police as the decision makers when dealing with community safety. This reflects as a system that does not show citizens at the top of the organizational chart. As the leaders of our community, citizens are at the forefront of, and as such should be given more and simple allowances in advisory committees. Talk should continue on how to best provide official authority to the citizens through forming a community review board. Nothing less will suffice. And ensuring that appropriate and thorough oversight of the law enforcement community. An advisory board that exists solely to communicate concerns without any subpoena power to enact change, and one that exists to pacify the community, not empower it. The right to know requests serve as a good tool for seeking information as community members. However, it doesn't provide the full scope of documentation necessary to assess any wrongdoing within the police bureau. Administrative subpoena power is needed within the community review board, similar to the administrative subpoena power allowed through the tax board and zoning hearing board, both whom, stated by Mr. Grover, hold administrative subpoena power to ensure that ethical procedures are followed. Previous conversations pinpoint the prohibition of such subpoena power based on state legislation. We further identify, if that be the case, for the Criminal Information Act, which would prohibit sharing to be identified in the proposal, to indicate any amendments and referendum needed to address this issue. This action has shown itself to be effective for other citizen review boards in other third-class cities. Once provided subpoena power, citizens also believe that appropriate advocacy and support should come from the mayor and all of judiciary entities to ensure it is properly enforced. As it stands, the current language of the advisory committee proposal asks for its members to serve as the fundamental resource that assists the Bureau of Police in their mission. The entire advisory committee proposal is centered around language for how the police can be best supported, furthering narrative that the police are at the moral center of the issue. The issue that prompts our demands for the community policing board are driven by noticeable trends in the police abuse of power, bias, and systemic racism, which continues to show itself through actions and laws enforcement right here in Harrisburg. The goal of this board is not for the community to find ways to improve the relationships with law enforcement. It is to restore residents to their rightful place in the city's organizational chart and create a real accountability structure for the police bureau to the community by the community. The wording under this proposal's intent and purposes highlights the distortion in purpose. Committee appointments should also highlight the citizens' right to have more of a voice in selecting committee members. Appointment for anything that directly impacts the community should be more stakeholders at the community level and should maintain power in selection and appointment from the community as well. Membership qualifications listed in the proposal also pinpoint lack of cultural competence in language and intent. The emphasis for inclusion in committee identifies strong, demonstrable relationships with the law enforcement. The committee is not responsible to serve as a liaison and promote productive law enforcement and community interaction as stated, but to be its own entity, serving to compile, identify and investigate instances of police misconduct and abuse of power to hold the police department accountable. The proposal as outlined serves more as an advocacy committee serving the needs of the Bureau rather than an accountability committee serving the needs of residents.
Okay, Ms. Petrosky.
Okay.
Is there any additional comments?
Yes. This is from Alex Sharif. It says, to the honorable elected members of City Council, I submitted a letter in support of the concerns that have been put forward by the young professionals of color, Greater Harrisburg. While I'm unfortunately missed the 4 p.m. deadline, which is fine, to submit my personal concerns for public comment, I hope that my thoughts will be considered as you deliberate Bill 8 of 2020. Why am I in support? Why I am in support of creating a citizens committee to provide a mechanism for community members to have a voice and oversight of the Harrisburg Bureau of Police. I would like to see council consider revisions to the current bill. I would like to see language included in the bill that centers this committee more around the needs of the community as opposed to needs of police. I think you can start by naming it Citizens Law Enforcement Review Committee. Naming it a review committee as opposed to an advisory committee sends an important message that the group will play an active role in holding police accountable for serving the community and prevent them from harming the community. Similarly, how come there is no language that gives this committee authority to hold police accountable for trends of abuse of power, misconduct, and unethical practices? The name of this eventual committee and its functions reflect your end goal. My question for you to answer is whether or not that is to pacify the community, empower it. This committee gives the current language or proposal and asks for its members to serve as a fundamental resource that assists the police in their mission. It appears that your current plan aims to pacify. My hope is that the bill moves forward. And secondly, this is more along lines of the same thing that I've just read, but the second part I'll read. It says along the lines of empowerment, the process of selecting the committee members should be transparent and done with the community. Community members will have the opportunity to weigh in on who will represent to ensure to ensure that the committee members is not made up of people who are politically connected. I'd love to see efforts made to include people who have been involved with the criminal justice system on this committee, as their experience with law enforcement could provide valuable perspective. I agree with the concerns raised by the young professionals of color, Greater Harrisburg, that membership qualifications currently listed in the proposal also pinpoint lack of cultural competence in the language for intent. For example, if the committee members will be required to undergo an orientation and training from police, I think it's also fair to expect that some sort of racial justice training also be provided to ensure all committee members have an understanding of historic challenges that exist between police and Black communities, as well as other marginalized communities. 3, I think that additional research could be done to craft a bill that addresses the concerns that have been raised about the oversight ability this community will or will not have. As a public health professional who used to run a community health coalition, I know that transparent information is essential to empower communities to be engaged and take action. Harrisburg Review Committee must be able to access data that will ideally then drive their actions. I think steps can be taken before this group begins to work to ensure meaningful plan of action. By compiling additional research of a similar sized city, both within and outside Pennsylvania, and compile a menu of best practices for Harrisburg's consideration in the development of a review committee. What data can be accessed? What is their role in taking action when patterns of misconduct are identified? What are some community-oriented, non-police-oriented accomplishments that Harrisburg's committee could aim for? Grant administrative subpoena power to ensure committee members will have access to data that will enable them to hold police accountable for following ethical procedures in their job as public servants. Safely conduct town halls, which I am happy to hear is already being planned, in advance of a vote on the bill to collect additional feedback to ensure this committee's goals and functions are aligned with the needs and wants of Harrisburg residents. I hope the end result of your efforts result in a committee that will hold the Harrisburg police accountable to their mission of protecting and serving their community and give residents a voice that helps shape what policing looks like in our community.
Okay, Mr. Petrosky, is at the end of the.
There's a couple more here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jane Buckwalk had said that she is requesting you vote affirmative on the
Bill 8.
Bill resolutions 58 and 59. And I also ask that you consider to imagine this EAC program beyond a summer program. As you're aware, our students have lost much in the past years, including Pathways to Success. This particular program can and should be an ongoing program to benefit the students and the community. This message is, or comment is from Liam Hicklin. I want to express my disappointment in what came across as an attempt to dismiss the effort of the residents of Harrisburg to create a civilian review board of the Harrisburg Police Department. It seems like the city solicitor has mistaken Proposition 8, 2020 passing as it stands with no amendments and to deny a civilian review board the power of the administrative subpoena. The solicitor went through great lengths to cite various reasons that the subpoena power is not viable, using vague language without giving any examples of why the reasons he cited held any weight. I'm not satisfied that we're getting the full picture, or that the steps cannot be taken to create a board that will have investigative powers in order to hold the Harrisburg Police Department accountable to its citizens. What is obvious is that as it stands, Proposition 8, 2020 only serves to form a committee dedicated to instruct civilians who live in Harrisburg about the vital work of the Harrisburg Police Department does for the community, while sidestepping our real demand that the police department be held liable for its actions. Rather than accepting the solicitor's assertions that the citizens of Harrisburg are limited in steps we can take to hold police accountable, we would like to continue dialogue about how to form a committee that serves the best interests of the residents rather than one that serves to promote the interests of the police department. If it is true, as a statement in line 15 of the proposed bill, that the police department already has a vested interest in working in partnership with the community, the Harrisburg Police Department should recognize that it cannot foster a positive relationship. It is unwilling to be held accountable to the people it is sworn to serve and protect. Asserting that a review board cannot have administrative subpoena power or independent investigatory powers without stating in clear, plain language that why the city does not have the power to grant them gives us the impression that the city is attempting to hide the truth from the residents. And it brings the question to mind, if other third-class cities in Pennsylvania have created review boards with investigative and subpoena powers, why can't Harrisburg? Obviously, the creation of a review board will take time, effort, and research. We're not willing to accept the Proposition 8, 2020 until the time has been put into amending this bill so that it creates an oversight committee that does more than communicate the police perspective to the people, and that advises the police department with no guarantee that advice will be taken. It is imperative that we not rush this, but get this right.
Any additional comments, Mr. Petrosky?
Yes.
Okay.
This received a message from Yvette Williams. She actually sent a message and a video in opposition to the fireworks, and she said that she lives on the Hill area on Bush Street, and she sent a video reflecting the aftermath of the neighborhood property, which I'll forward to you all, in a residential area from a neighborhood after the July 4th festivities that lasted after 1 a.m. She said these are some of the effects that can occur to people's property. It could be possible to have cause a fire on my property. Once you see the video, understand what I mean. There's a lot of debris that has fallen on my property. I woke up Sunday morning around 7 a.m. on July 5th and decided to tape it. There's several videos that were taken. The main video is larger. However, I will attempt to send another email and hope you all will get it.
And you're going to forward that email as well as that video to each one of us, Mr. Petrosky?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments?
Yes.
Well, let me know when you're done then.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
This message is from Christina Kostelecki. She says, Council members Majors, Daniels, Green, Madsen, Bowers, Allett, and Williams. On June 4th, several members of Harrisburg City Council took a knee in front of the municipal building as a sign of solidarity with the community to condemn systemic racism. I now ask that you take a stand by voting for the subpoena power for the proposed Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee. As Bill 8, 2020 proposes, the council's desire is to promote community confidence in the Bureau of Police and the law enforcement officers that serve our community. I, along with most of the other residents in Harrisburg, will only have increased confidence that when the Harrisburg City Council takes bold, definitive action that will hold the officers accountable. Clearly established laws, including Mayor Pappenfuss's proposed 8 can't wait, have no bearing on systemic racism. So long as officers continue to benefit from qualified immunity, a citizens review board with subpoena power will enact change. Put simply, Harrisburg is not interested in placating our police, our mayor, or ourselves. We're not asking for yet another committee without teeth or a set of performance allyship laws, which make some people feel better, but quickly return the system to status quo. We are asking for you to make a move that's bigger than your peer communities. That's harder to do and may require immense effort on your part. The benefits are worth the cost. 1 in every 1,000 Black men can expect to be killed by police, according to the Department of Justice 2019 report. When police initiate contact, Blacks and Hispanics are more likely to experience the threat of using physical force than white people. Even the Police Executive Research Forum acknowledges that the use of force is the greatest consequence to the policing profession. You took a knee, attended protests, and set up the outline for citizen committee because you already know these facts. We cannot sit idly knowing that there's more that can be done today. All residents deserve to be among the representation to investigate instances of police misconduct and abuse of power, to hold the police department accountable. The purpose of the committee should be to make Harrisburg a safe place for each and every person rather than a performance of positive relationships. When residents are threatened by the very individuals who sworn to protect them, there's not one person who deserves to die at the hands of police. Therefore, there's not one police officer who should receive qualified immunity when laws exist to eliminate preventable deaths of our residents. This is from Elise Kazar. Elected members of City Council, while I thank you, the council, for quickly setting in motion the process of creating a citizens committee to oversee policing in Harrisburg, I feel that the Bill 8, 2020 is rushed product that falls short of the mark. Let's do this, but let's do it right. Otherwise, we are wasting times on a placating gesture that will not effectuate real change. First of all, beginning with the very title, Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee, the bill negates the role we need the committee to serve. When the citizens have asked for an oversight committee, here are some additions and corrections. Citizens seek a committee that will have some teeth to deal with use of force issues, misconduct, over policing, under policing, and general issues of equity in the way Harrisburg's police force protects and serves us and is accountable to us. We want a committee with power, including designating processes supported and backed by a city council to obtain whatever information is needed to get to the root of anything the committee investigates. The bill only gives duties, no power to the committee. The bill needs to be rewritten, incorporate actual powers of oversight, and recenter the relationship so that police are accountable to citizens. The bill should place responsibility on the city to provide resources and support that are necessary for the committee to conduct its work. including such things as technical infrastructure, communications platforms, a contact for the form on the city's website, etc. The bill should also describe what the police department is responsible for. Since it is the police who work for the citizens, not the other way around, the bill should require a prompt fulfillment of the committee requests for meetings, data records, response to inquiries, and other information. The bill mentions training and ride-alongs, but it should require the police department to have these resources developed within the given time frame. Periodically to review and update training templates and its policies for its interactions with the committee. In general, the police department should take the committee seriously, and the language in the bill needs to make this relationship clear. Continuing public update and feedback cycles are needed. As ideas and considered components of the bills are further developed, we need commitment from the public safety chairperson to set dates for open forums, including pandemic conscious in-person meeting space, as well as participation video and phone. The goal of forming this committee is to foster public safety and public confidence in the police force. Trust is indisputably the foundation for improving these aspects of our city. Unfortunately, this bill is weak, puts citizens to serve to the police, and will do very little to build that trust. Let's keep working on this. Let's create a more meaningful role for the citizens to play in an oversight of our own police department. This is from Kirsten Moe. Council members, I commented last week and listened to your meeting and the solicitor's comments on the many of the points I raised. Tonight, I want to note that even though the solicitor stated that the subpoena power could be granted but would not be enforceable, I still believe that we are very much better off having it included. In the meanwhile, we might get a police department that is more responsible to the needs of the citizens. When we ask for subpoena power to be specifically stated, we are only asking for administrative powers that you already have. If you then wish to ask for judicial assistance upon our review, that would be your choice on a particular case if you saw a need. 2, others have found and provided you with knowledge of third-class cities that have review boards. Sorry, the solicitor has not. Will you please include that the review board members be sworn to uphold the privacy and the subpoena collateral they receive? This should reduce fears of public exposure when requesting information. As I stated last week, it is important that we note that the current bill needs to be changed to reflect that is to be a review board with subpoena power, not just for a powerless advisory board. I believe that it is important to be citizen need oriented, and you need to be able to enforce that rather than explanatory service explaining that needs of the police to the community. It need not be a hostile relationship, given that we want excellent police service, but it does need to be citizen oriented. All right, I believe this is the final one. This is from Mike Alexander. He says, I'm in favor of a strong independent civil review board for Harrisburg. There is currently a lack of trust between the Harrisburg citizens, particularly in neighborhoods of people of color and law enforcement. Chief Carter and Blake Lynch are making admirable attempts to increase the trust, but I believe that the CRB will be helpful in furthering their efforts. It will also help in bringing greater accountability and transparency to the Harrisburg Police Department. Luckily, we do not need to recreate the wheel. There are third-class cities in PA that have functioning CRBs or are in the exploratory stage like Harrisburg and creating one. These include the cities of Chester, Lancaster, York, Altoona, Hazleton, and Erie. In addition, there's a national organization comprising of many, if not most of the CRBs throughout the US. It's called the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, NACOLE.org. This organization has a lot of model policies and procedures suggesting it has training resources also. Another national organization, Campaign Zero, has a community oversight section with recommendations for cities to follow. Resolution 8, as it is currently written, is too weak. We do not need a CRB that is more than glorified neighborhood watch group that only reports and reviews citizens' complaint. There are a number of models and CRBs being utilized by communities across the state and within the nation. I believe Harrisburg CRBs must be an independent body with their own funding and investigative powers. How extensive an investigative function, it will depend on the type of CRB Harrisburg will develop. Harrisburg CRB must have some teeth so that it can address issues like police misconduct, excessive use of force, and suspected bias within the Harrisburg Police Department. Bill 8 must add administrative subpoena power to the powers of Harrisburg Citizens Review Board. A confidentiality clause must be added so that the people who register complaints and those who are accused will feel safe from retribution while the investigative process moves forward. A confidentiality clause will also protect people's privacy. There are also issues with Resolution 8 in discussion of the members of the CRB. How will the members be selected? What kind of knowledge and skills are they looking for needs to be revisited? How will the 7 proposed members be selected? Should community members themselves have a greater voice in who represents them? How will the need for cultural competence skills and bilingual skills be taken into account? What about the need of understanding mental health issues and trauma? This segues into another area that will need to be addressed as we move forward. What type and how much training will be provided to these members? Who will pay for the training and how often will it be required? Again, we don't need to create this from scratch. There are over 200 citizen review boards across the country. Many of them, I'm sure, will be gladly to share their experiences with us. NACOLE.org also has many resources and trainings for new citizen review boards and their members. There are 2 other issues that I would also like you to consider. I believe that the Harrisburg Citizens Review Board's work, investigations, reports, and recommendations must absolutely be transparent. Citizens and law enforcement officials themselves must be clearly aware of the policies, processes, and structure of the board. There also must be no hint of misunderstandings that lead to breaches in trust and hurt valuable services that the Harrisburg board will do for us all. Finally, I would like to talk about the budget for this proposed entity. If you give the CRB independent investigative powers, as I and many others are advocating for, it will require a viable funding stream. Where will the money come from? How will the CRB be funded? Who will administer day-to-day needs of the CRB? Will an administrator be needed? If so, how many hours will this person be paid for? It would be a shame to create a wonderful CRB only to find that there is not enough resources to sustain it. Ms. Green said last night that she wants to hold at least 2 more town halls in July regarding the formation of the board. I strongly urge you all to read and listen to the public comments before voting on any resolution. It is better to take your time and get this right rather than voting hastily and finding that the work product isn't what we wanted or needed. Let me just do one final check and I believe that's it.
Okay, Mr. Petrosky.
We got another one here from a Miss Kim Hurst. She says she's writing to complain about the constant fireworks in her area. The display begins between 8:45 and 9:30 p.m. and in one instance didn't end until after 2 a.m. She said she called the cops and 311 at least 3 times the week of June 22nd, June 29th, and July 4th, and registered her complaint, I expected a return telephone call to discuss what steps the city is taking to combat this issue, and to date, I have not received any follow-back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Petrosky.
Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's it.
Okay, thank you. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Okay, council members, moving on to approval of minutes. It's the approval of the legislative session minutes of June 23rd, 2020. Are there any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, minutes will stand approved. We now move to reports of committees. Report from Chair Williams on the work session of June 30th, 2020. At the work session on June 30th, 2020, the Administration Committee considered Resolution Number 8, 2020, which is a resolution appointing Mr. Martinez to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council. Mr. Martinez has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Environmental Studies with a certified certificate in biology teaching, and is currently pursuing a graduate certificate in aquaculture and fish health. Mr. Martinez is dedicated to environmental advocacy and has made several presentations on sustainability at conferences and seminars. He also speaks 3 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and French fluently. Mr. Martinez would be an asset for the city of Harrisburg with all of his exceptional skills and knowledge in the environmental studies. I ask my council members to please vote in the affirmative for Mr. Richard Martinez to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council. That is the only piece of legislation I had in the Administration Committee. I now move on to report from Chair Allett on the work session on June 30th, 2020. Mr. Allett, are you ready for your report?
Yes, Sam, thank you. Up for discussion at last week's work session was the proposed third 2020 budget reallocation. I will go through it in 3 pieces. First was Appendix A, which covered some money coming in from FEMA and other grant sources, as well as an allocation of CDBG funds to help with homeless expenses reimbursement, as well as reimbursement from FIA and other grant services, and providing some overtime reimbursement from the Philadelphia deployment of fire services. That was covered in Appendix A. And in Appendix B, there was a reallocation done to allocate $90,000 for outside counsel to cover some increased cost of litigation that the city has been facing. Also a reimbursement payment of $171,000 from HUD that we need to cover, as well as an extra work order for the comp plan. We also had to reallocate funds since there is no Harrisburg Senators this summer. So they need to cover for that lack of revenue coming into the city. Also, as there will be an amendment that will be proposed tonight that would become Appendix C, and this was to allocate funds for a redesigned summer program that would now take place at the YMCA. And a lot of the money for this would be allocated out of the host municipal fund. So this will have to be proposed as an amendment for it. I just want to add my 2 cents on this. I think there was a great presentation done from the AAC on the type of program and things that were proposed. I will just kind of point out that, and I'd have to, because I feel like I would be remiss not to, I do remain concerned about any type of program happening in the world of COVID-19 right now. I know when I've talked about my clients that I work with on a daily basis, we've advised our clients in many cases not to do any type of programs would bring people from the outside into workspaces. And so I just remain concerned about that as something for consideration. I realize I'm but one voice in that matter. So I recognize that each and every council member will certainly be able to vote in accordance with their thoughts on this program. But I would be remiss not to point out my own thoughts on that. So that concludes my report on the committee of last week's work session.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We now move on to report from Chair Green on the work session of June 30th, 2020. Ms. Green, are you ready with your report?
I am. Thank you, President Williams. During the work session held June 30th, 2020, the Public Safety Committee discussed Bill 8 of 2020, which would create a Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee in the city of Harrisburg. Council asked the administration about subpoena powers, as many of the community members had been asking for the board to have such powers. Mr. Grover gave us an overview of the types of subpoena powers, administrative powers versus judicial powers, and whether the board would be able to enforce such subpoena powers. There were also questions about how much information was public that the board would have access to through the right to know process. Public records would include, but are not limited to, body camera footage and police reports. There were also questions from council about how the board would provide accountability, given that the subpoena powers are said to be unenforceable if they would be put in there. And if there aren't any subpoena powers available, how would we hold the police department accountable if they don't comply with our request, or with the board's request, excuse me. We also had some questions from Councilwoman Bowers, who asked how many residents had completed the Civilian Police Academy. We weren't able to get the answer off the top because the police department wasn't there. And then tonight they said they will provide the information to us. Councilman Allott brought up some questions about are we addressing the concerns of our community with this legislation, accountability pieces for police and community that they serve, development of a process that creates and facilitates dialogue, trust between community and law enforcement, and are we addressing long-term concerns. Councilman Allott also wanted to ensure that we are allowing for two-way communication throughout this process. We also discussed Resolution 51 of 2020 that will create a use of force report. Councilwoman Daniels requested that a training be provided to council that would allow us to have a better understanding of the use of force policies and the language within the policies. We had over 40 public comments about these two pieces of legislation that were read into record, many of which were wanting subpoena powers for the advisory board. We will continue the discussion for both Bill 8 and Resolution 51 throughout our summer hiatus in a series of public meetings. The dates will be confirmed and advertised in the near future. I would also like to thank community organizations that have been holding public discussions to really continue the conversation in our community, such as the Young Professionals of Color. And I look forward to gaining more insight from residents as we continue this discussion. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Moving on to report from Chair Majors in the work session of June 30th, 2020, and also July 7th of 2020. Mr. Majors, are you ready with your report? Mr. Majors?
Yes, President Williams. I'm just trying to make sure I had all of my notes together.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the Public Works Committee meeting of June 30th, 2020, we met to consider Resolution 56 of 2020, a resolution of the City Council and the City of Harrisburg to ratify and confirm the provisions of Executive Order Number 3 that provides for an application for impacted businesses for a one-time credit on commercial solid waste disposal and collection accounts issued in conformity with the mayor's declaration of public health COVID-19 disaster emergency. That will be an option for businesses that were impacted and had to shut down due to COVID for a couple of months to be able to apply for and receive a credit on their commercial waste bill for a period of 4 months. And that will basically reduce those bills by half over the last 4 months of the year in order to provide them with some relief, since they weren't incurring as much trash during the shutdown. The mayor explained that this is just an opportunity for us to be able to provide a little bit of relief to those businesses that have been impacted. It does not impact our residential customers who have continued to receive service, as well as our public works team has continued to pick up all of the refuse, as well as additional refuse that has been incurred by people having to stay at home at no additional cost to the residents. So I would ask that members would vote in the affirmative on Resolution 56 of 2020. Additionally, today during the July 7th meeting of the Public Works Committee, we met to consider 3 resolutions. Resolution 50, Resolution 50 of 2020, Resolution 52 of 2020, and Resolution 53 of 2020. Resolution 50 essentially is an agreement to dispose of surplus equipment that has exhausted its useful life at the city of Harrisburg by the Bureau of Fleet Management. Nick Fisher from Fleet Management said that there were 35 vehicles that had reached their end of their useful life and are either being auctioned or bid out for the city of Harrisburg. So I'd ask that our members would vote in the affirmative on Resolution 50. Next was Resolution 52 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate, enter into a reimbursement agreement with Capital Region Water for the construction of ADA compliant curb ramps, curb extensions, and other streetscape improvements as a part of Capital Region Water's South Allison Hill Green Stormwater Infrastructure Project. Our city engineer, Wayne Martin, explained that this project is for a total of 18 ramps, totaling $150,000 that will be ADA compliant in the areas of 14th Street, 15th Street, and Kittatinny Street in South Allison Hill. This project has been in the works for a number of years, dating back to 2018 with Capital Region Water. And there is a small savings that we will receive due to the design work all being done in one. So he estimated that the typical cost of a ramp is about $10,000 a ramp. So I would also ask that members would vote in the affirmative on Resolution 52 of 2020. And lastly, we have Resolution 53 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to enter into negotiate an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the Township of Swatara for allowing the city to utilize its composting facility that is owned and operated by Swatara Township. We had Chris Nave, our Public Works Director, Mr. Johnson, explained that this agreement would be for a 2-year period with a cost of $2,945.10 per year for the city to be able to utilize their compost facility when we have woody waste. So we can send it there so that it can be disposed of properly. The city is no longer taking any of this woody waste to the incinerator, so we're looking to make sure that we're disposing of it properly. And this will, and as we are in continued litigation regarding the potential setup of our own composting facility, this will hopefully be a short-term solution as we continue to work through those issues so that the city can finally have a place to dispose of its own leafy and woody waste. And I'd ask that all the members of council would vote affirmative on Resolution 53 of 2020. And with that, President Williams, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. We now move on to report from Chair Bowers on the work session of July 7th, 2020. Ms. Bowers, are you ready with your report?
Yes, I am. Thank you, President Williams. On Tuesday, July 7th, 2020, the Building and Housing Committee met to discuss 2 resolutions during the council work session. Resolution 54 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the National Endowment for the Arts Our Town Grant Program for up to $150,000 to fund the installation of murals at the end of Dairy Street in Allison Hill in partnership with Sprocket Mural Works and Tri-County Community Action. Ms. Rebecca Vollmer, Grants Manager for the City of Harrisburg, represented the administration by sharing additional information regarding the grant application. Ms. Vollmer shared that the city is not an applicant, However, they are assisting Sprocket Mural Works with the preparation of their application. Sprocket Mural Works will install 2 new murals on the Mulberry Street Bridge. Ideally, they would like to add murals to both sides of the bridge. The grant application is incremental, ranging from $25,000 to $150,000. The application will be made in request of $50,000. There are 2 application deadlines, August the 6th and August 18th. Next, Resolution 55 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the submission of a redevelopment assistance capital program grant application of up to $9 million to fund renovations of the Martin Luther King Jr. Government Center located at 10 North 2nd Street, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17101. Mr. Mark Woolley, Business Administrator for the City of Harrisburg, represented the administration by sharing the primary goals of the funding needed to make renovations to the Martin Luther King Jr. City Government Center. The renovation project will take a 4-phased approach. Mr. Woolley shared the following goals of the renovation project. Improve accessibility barriers for both elderly residents and those with unique challenges that may hinder their ability to participate in the legislative process. Renovations will be made to the bathrooms in City Hall and City Council chambers. Increase building visibility, as it is named after Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The renovations will pay homage to the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Finally, economic development drivers will be present through a business incubator space. The first step in the application process is to provide a clear overview of the project and proposed budget. The application window will be available beginning July 13th, 2020. The city will have 1 month to complete the application. I would like to recommend both Resolution 54 and 55 for affirmative votes among my colleagues. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bowers. Moving on to ordinance for first reading. It's Bill 9 of 2020. Mr. Petrosky, please read that into record.
Bill 9 of 2020 is an ordinance amending Chapter 3-343 of the codified ordinances, noise control and abatement, modernizing noise control standards and enforcement, enhancing penalties, providing for administrative review and appeal, and adopting technical conforming amendments.
That will be placed in Public Safety Committee. We now move on for ordinance.
President?
Yes.
That bill actually isn't to the City Council. It was pulled by the Law Bureau for technical issues.
Okay.
So a complete bill will be coming for the fall.
Okay.
We're looking at the noise ordinance and there are some engineering measures that we could not confirm.
Okay.
And then there's a tie to the Fireworks Act in the state passed.
Okay. So when would you have that available? Would you have that available by August 25th?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Ordinance for amendment, we have none tonight. Ordinance for final passage, we have none. We now move on to resolutions. Resolution 40 of 2020. Mr. Petrosky, please read it into record.
Resolution 40 of 2020 is a resolution appointing Mr. Leland Nelson to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council.
Any questions or comments, council members? You're hearing none. Please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Madsen?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 40 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Moving on to resolution 48.
Resolution 48 of 2020 is a resolution appointing Mr. Richard Martinez to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council.
Council members, any additional comments or questions regarding resolution 48? Hearing none, please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Madsen?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 48 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 49.
Resolution 49 of 2020 is a resolution approving the third proposed 2020 budget reallocation.
Mr. Allett, you have an amendment to attach to Resolution 49.
Yes, give me 1 second. I accidentally closed it out. There it is. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to add Appendix C to the third proposed budget reallocation. And this would be for the purposes of drawing a total amount of funds to pull funds to allocate programming in the amount of, I think it's 73,000. Actually, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. It's a total of, make sure I word this correctly, forgive me. It looks like we are drawing $73,501 out of the Host Municipal Benefit Fund to apply to the YMCA program, and then allocating an expenditure of $125,000 from that fund. So Neil, can I get some clarification on the numbers in this? Because the number I had total, I thought was around 90-some thousand.
95. Mr. Grover. Mr. Grover, is he muted?
I don't see him on.
Is one from the law bureau on? I just want to make sure I'm proposing the right amounts for this.
Councilman Allett, this is Senior Deputy Solicitor Tiffany Baldock. I do believe that Neil dropped off. Okay. And you are correct as far as my recollection is that the total amount of the program is in the $90,000 range.
95,000.
Well, no, it's 96,896. So that's the expenditure.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I will propose an amendment with that in mind, but that would need to be, I guess, adjusted at least. I mean, we can make a motion for the amendment, but I just want to make sure the amount is correct as I read that. So I will go ahead and make a motion to amend the third proposed budget reallocation with Appendix C to expend a total dollar amount of $96,896 for use of the summer YMCA proposed program.
And I think that does satisfy the requirements. You made the motion appropriately. And yes, if the exhibit needs to be adjusted, technical adjustment, we will do so.
Yeah, it's just weird because what was previously approved in the budget was the 125. So what they did was amend it to reduce the 28,104 to bring it down to 96.
Gotcha. So it is technically correct. It's just the way it looks on there.
Yeah, it just looks weird because it has that top revenue part. So I don't know.
Yeah, it confused me when I looked at it. So I apologize, but the motion still stands as correct.
Just a point of clarification, Tiffany, a point of clarification. Resolution 59 ties into this amendment.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I assume when you reference Resolution 59, you are talking about the summer program with the YMCA. Is that correct, President Williams?
Yes.
Yes. So it does tie in directly with that reallocation.
Okay, thank you.
You still need to approve that resolution for that, for the funds to be expended.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's a motion by Mr. Allett.
I'll second.
And I'll second by Ms. Daniels. Mr. Petrosky, please call the vote for the motion of the amendment for $96,800.
I believe it's, just to confirm the amount, it's 96,896, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, calling the vote for this amendment. Mr. Allett?
No.
Ms. Bowers?
No.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
No.
Mr. Mattson?
No.
Mr. Majors?
No.
Ms. Williams?
No.
The amendment fails.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry, President Williams. I just had a question regarding the program itself.
Okay.
First, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Daniels and the members of the EAC that tried to salvage a program for our youth this summer. But my questions are relative to the certifications that the youth would have received with the ISSA and the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, the special COVID-19 sanitation certification. I wanted to know if our city employees have these certifications. Have they gone through this specialized training?
Is there anyone from the administration available, please, to answer that question? Mayor?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
This is David Baker. I just want to let you guys know that no one in the city does have that current certification. We've never actually had a need for it. We do have a management personnel that has many certs, and he definitely has retrained our people on how to newly sanitize, but I do not believe any of us have that particular certification.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Bowers, any additional?
Thank you for clarifying. I just wanted to clarify my vote. I voted no because it seems like we should take care of our employees first, and given the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all aware, it seems like our public spaces should be prepared and our employees should be prepared to ensure the safety and sanitation is completed in the appropriate manner. So my suggestion would be perhaps our employees could gain these 2 certifications, and then perhaps they could be the ones to train the youth at a later date. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Okay, council members, we're moving on to resolution 49 of 2020 without the Appendix C amendment. Is there any additional questions on the rest of the budget? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Madsen?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes,
Resolution 49 passes.
thank you. Moving on to resolution 50 of 2020.
Resolution 50 of 2020 is a resolution approving the disposition of surplus equipment which has exhausted its useful life for city operations by the Bureau of Fleet Management.
Any additional questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Madsen?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes,
Resolution 50 passes.
moving on to resolution 52.
Resolution 52 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a reimbursement agreement with Capital Region Water to fund the installation of and construction of ADA compliant curb ramps, curb extensions, and other streetscape improvements as part of Capital Region Water's South Allison Hill Green Stormwater Infrastructure Project.
Any additional comments or questions, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Madsen?
Yes.
Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes,
Resolution 52 passes.
moving on to resolution 53.
Resolution 53 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the township of Soterra for the purpose of allowing the city to use a compost facility owned and operated by the township of Soterra.
Any additional comments or questions, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 53 passes.
Moving on to resolution 54.
Resolution 54 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the National Endowment for the Arts, Art Town Grant Program for up to $150,000 to fund the installation of murals at the end of Derry Street in Allison Hill in partnership with Sprocket Murals Works and Tri-County Community Action.
Any additional questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote. Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allard,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 54 passes.
Moving on to resolution 56.
55, right?
No, we just did 55.
We did
We
54.
did 54.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had it circled already. Moving on to resolution 55.
We're all blending together for me too. Resolution 55 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a redevelopment assistant capital program grant application of up to $9 million to fund renovations of the Martin Luther King Jr. Government Center located at 10 North 2nd Street, Harrisburg, PA 17101.
Any questions or comments additionally, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allard,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes. Moving on to resolutions 56.
Resolution 56 of 2020. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Harrisburg to ratify and confirm the provisions of Executive Order Number 3 of 2020 that provides for an application for impacted businesses for a one-time credit on commercial solid waste disposal and collection accounts issued in conformity with mayoral declaration of public health COVID-19 disaster emergency.
Any additional questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote. Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allard,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers,
Yes.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 56 passes.
Okay. Mr. Petrosky, before you read resolution 57, Tiffany, are you still on?
Neil's back.
Pardon me?
And I'm here as well.
Back on.
Okay. Tiffany or Neil, what is resolution 57, 58, and 60 time sensitive?
57 and 60 are both time sensitive. 59 would mean someone who did the work won't get paid for a long time. It was basically an overage on work.
Okay. No, 57, 58, I asked you.
I mean, sorry, 57 and 60 are time sensitive. 58, the vendor who did the work through March would still not be paid then until next fall.
Oh, well, we need to, okay. Can I ask for suspension of the rules, please? A motion to suspend the rules so we can address resolution 57, 58, and 60?
So moved.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, resolution 57, Parks and Recreation. Ms. Daniels, that is your particular committee. Mr. Petrosky, please read the resolution 57 of 2020 into record.
Yeah, resolution 57 of 2020. It's a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to use $250,000 of CDBG money to fund the Chutes and Ladders Playground project and confirming the city's compliance with applicable laws and regulations.
Ms. Daniels.
Can someone, sorry, this was just placed today, so I have no information on this. So can whoever introduced it or proposed it explain what it is they're doing?
Ms. Baldock or Neil, are you available, please?
I'm here. I was just trying to see if Ms. Vollmer was still here.
Okay.
It is my understanding from Mr. Woolley that what this does is we have to show that the match is secured for the other grant that you voted on for Chutes and Ladders.
Okay.
And so this secures the match. It doesn't have it spent yet, because if you remember, we need to get to $1 million altogether. So that's what I understand this to do.
That's correct.
Mr. Woolley, are you available now?
Yes.
Okay. You want to give us any information on Resolution 57?
So the information, we've been talking about Chutes and Ladders for a few years now, and this is one of the dominoes for us to be able to complete the project. This $250,000, as Neil just stated, is used as the match for other grants that we are applying for at the state level in order to complete the project. Right now, it is with this grant, it'll be 3/4 of the way funded if we're successful. But it is time sensitive because there is a grant pending with the state that needs this for the match. So that's why it's time sensitive.
Thank you, Mr. Woolley. Ms. Daniels?
Okay, I'll open it up to council members. What other questions do you all have? I guess I'll start with Councilman Bowers.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, and Councilwoman Green.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you, though.
And Councilman Maxon.
No questions for me, thanks.
Councilwoman Williams.
I don't have any questions as well.
Councilman Allett.
No questions for me.
And Majors.
No, no questions.
Okay, so this is just, are we encumbering funds for the match, or is it?
It's federal funds for the match. It's using part of the federal funding that we have for the match.
Okay.
So it was part of our action plan for CDGB. We had allocated $250,000 for this project. And so right now the funds are designated for Chutes and Ladders, and they'll be used as a match. Rebecca, did you sign back on?
No, she's not available. Mr. Woolley.
Hi, this is Wes. So just one question based on that. So should we not receive the grant, what happens to those CDBG funds?
The CDGB funds can be redesignated for another project. These funds will not sunset, I believe, until 2 years hence. But I'll get confirmation on that from Lily. But they're secure in terms of not sunsetting for at least another 2 years.
That is correct.
And we have been given pretty strong assurances that once we establish this next funding, that we should have no issues whatsoever with our third tier of grant funding as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Moving on to Resolution 58 of 2020. Mr. Petrosky, please read it into record. And Ms. Bowers, you are Committee Chair for Building and Housing. That is your committee.
Yes.
Resolution 58 of 2020, It's a resolution authorizing a payment of $6,375 to YAG Properties LLC for work performed between January 2nd, 2020 and March 6th, 2020.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes, thank you, President Williams. Mr. Woolley, are you able to provide some insight into the services YAG provided with this payment?
I'll have Ms. Williams discuss it.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't know she was on. Ms. Williams, if you wouldn't mind, please sharing.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. From talking to the new lead program manager, it was an oversight. The employee, he was transitioning to the new position of lead program manager. And I have taken the corrective action to address the errors and put steps in place to monitor future contract agreement dates and amounts that are met in the future. It was just an oversight.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
We'll do our round robin. If anyone has questions, I'll begin with Vice President Allen.
I have no questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green.
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. President Williams.
Yes, one question. Are we being penalized because we did not pay that entity for the work that was performed?
No, we are not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, Ms. Bowers.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Madsen.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors.
No, no questions at this time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for providing an explanation.
You're welcome.
President Williams, I'll return the floor to you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bowers, but you also have Resolution 60 of 2020. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Missed that.
Mr.
Petrosky, could you please read Resolution 60 of 2020 into the record?
And I apologize for that because
that's okay.
I did that to be on the onset, give everyone what committees these resolutions were in.
Fine.
Mr. Petrosky?
I'm here. Resolution 60 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city to distribute additional federal money received through the CARES Act to entities which receive subrecipient funding pursuant to the city's fiscal year 2019 CDBG and ESG awards, and to negotiate and enter into agreements necessary to effectuate the distribution of such CARES Act funding.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, would you mind providing an overview of Resolution 60, please?
Absolutely. So as of June 9th, HUD has given us additional funds, $1,026,444. So we would like to apply those funds to current and future subrecipients. And that's what we would ask for.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, do you have any questions? Okay. Councilman Majors.
Sorry, no questions at this time. I got a coworker with me. I apologize.
I see. Councilman Madsen.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. President Williams.
Yes. Ms. Williams, are you going to be distributing additional monies to these nonprofit, these subrecipients?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And is this the same amount that was given from the on the onset?
This is actually additional monies that HUD just released as of June 9th, 2020.
My question, I understand that, but the monies on the onset that you've given them originally, is this the same amount that you're going to give them from this grant that you got from HUD?
No, it's an additional $1 million.
Okay. So each subrecipient will get the same amount of money they received before, right?
Well, there's two pots of money. There's the first allocation of the ESG, which was part of the action plan.
Right.
And then there was a second that is part of the COVID funding. And as part of the regulations, right now, if subrecipients that currently have or potential subrecipients currently had a COVID spend, anything related to COVID, legitimate COVID expenses, they can submit those as well with their application.
Okay.
And then we'll look at those and then we will seek to reimburse them. But they have to be legitimate expenditures related to COVID. And so we don't know the exact amount because different subrecipients might have different expenses.
Oh, have you set a maximum amount that each subrecipient can receive? That's my question.
We haven't set a maximum, but we're looking to distribute reasonably amongst all applicants. But we have to take a look at each subrecipient and their spends and the services that they provided to the residents of Harrisburg and to see which would be eligible for reimbursement. But my suggestion to the subrecipients is to apply early because the funds they're a limited amount of funds generally.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have, Ms. Bowers.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green.
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Vice President Allen.
No questions at this time.
Thank you. I will return the floor back to President Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Moving on to resolution 15. I'm sorry. May I have a motion to go back into session?
Madam President?
Yes.
Just on resolution 60, perhaps our office misunderstood the instruction a little bit, but it probably needs an amendment since it's an expenditure. It only refers to current subrecipients and not the future ones that Mr. Woolley and Ms. Williams were referring to. So it would need a little bit of amendment to one of the sentences there. So the authorization is clear.
Okay, and what should be the amendment? That
I'm trying to get Isaac to email me that or text me that right now. So.
Well, that was my question. As I'm looking at the amount of monies that was allocated with the first funding that we received, and now I wanted to know exactly how much they were receiving with this additional money.
Well, I think there's a requirement that it reports back to you on all the monies. That's
sure
in the resolution for that.
I understand that. So are we still waiting for the amendment or?
I am sending that to Mr. Grover currently.
You could just read it out loud, Isaac.
If that is the intention for this, an additional whereas clause would need to be added prior to the last whereas clause that would read the Department of Building and Housing Development is further also authorized to establish a program to publicly select future subrecipients and enter into such agreements with them.
Mr. Petrosky, did you get that?
The Department of Building and Housing is authorized to establish a program to, one more time, Isaac.
To publicly solicit future subrecipients and enter into such agreements with them.
And can I inquire with Ms. Williams and Mr. Woolley if that is accurate? Did we get that right?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the misunderstanding, but because of the amount of funds and we don't know what organizations had COVID-related expenses, we wanted to make sure that we were opening it up to a broader swath of potential subrecipients in order to help them.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to go back into session.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you. We're back in session. Moving on to Resolution 57 of 2020. Mr. Petrosky, read into record again.
Resolution 57 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to use $250,000 of CDBG money to fund the Chutes and Ladders Playground project and confirming the city's compliance with applicable laws and regulations.
Any additional questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 57 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 58.
Resolution 58 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing a payment of $6,375 to YAG Properties LLC for work performed between January 2nd, 2020 and March 6th, 2020.
Any additional comments or questions, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
I'm going to abstain.
Tap.
I'm abstaining. I don't have enough information to decide on this.
Just checking with the parliamentarian if Councilman Daniels is allowed to abstain.
The rules do not provide for abstaining except for a stated conflict.
Right, for a conflict of interest.
Right, that's the only abstention in the rules.
Councilwoman Daniels, you have to vote on that, up or down? Pardon me? You're muted.
I'm saying maybe I could be absent for the remainder of the meeting. And that I don't have to vote because this stuff just, I mean, we literally have no time to look at this stuff.
What do you mean you don't have an accounting? You don't have a copy of the resolution in front of you or on your computer?
Yeah, we got it. How long ago did we get it? Like,
and that's why we suspended the rules, Ms. Daniels, so that we could speak about it.
yeah, and did anyone have a chance to read it? Like, I didn't have a chance to read it. And then the information that's provided is like half information. So I'm just saying, I don't have enough information to make a decision. So I could like not participate in the rest of the meeting because I don't know if this is good or bad.
I don't think parliamentary that rules allow for that. Mr. Grover?
So all I do as a parliamentarian is advise the presiding officer. The rules provide that it has to be a yes or no vote. I guess the council could make a motion to suspend the rules for this vote and allow an abstention, but that is not what the rules provide. But that's the presiding officer's call. All I do is advise on this issue.
No, she's an elected official who needs to vote on a particular resolution. She can either vote it up or down.
Okay, I could not participate in the rest of this meeting. I'll just be absent.
Mr. Petrosky?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 58 passes.
Thank you. Resolution 59, 2020. With, would you read the amendment first, Mr. Petrosky?
Well, it's 59 is 59 still. Are you removing that from the agenda?
I'm sorry. I meant 60. I'm ahead of myself. Okay, read resolution 59 in the record, please, Mr. Petrosky.
Resolution 59 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate, enter into and establish a pilot grant program with the Camp Curtin YMCA to provide education, training, and summer employment for youth within the city.
Any additional questions or comments on resolution 59, council members?
Just a quick question of clarification. This would be the contract that we have not funded by the budget reallocation, correct?
59 is now moot.
Right.
In terms of a vote, I think it could be withdrawn by the council president from the agenda, as they already voted not to fund the program.
Okay, then I'm going to remove it. Thank you. Moving on to resolution 60. Mr. Petrosky, please read the amendment to record.
Resolution 60 of 2020 is a resolution authorizing the city to distribute additional federal money received through the CARES Act to entities which receive subrecipient funding pursuant to the city's fiscal year 2019 CDBG and ESG awards, and to negotiate and enter into agreements necessary to effectuate the distribution of such CARES Act funding. And the amendment, I believe, is the second to last whereas, where the Department of Building and Housing is authorized to establish a program to publicly select future subrecipients and enter. And that's all I got. If Isaac, if you could assist me with the remainder of that.
And enter into such agreements with them.
Into such agreements
with them.
With them. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, council members, any questions or comments on the amendment? Hearing none, please call the vote on the amendment.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels? Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes,
The amendment carries.
thank you. Now, would you read the resolution again into record, please, so we can vote on the?
Will it just be calling the vote for resolution 60 as amended?
Yes.
All right, so calling the vote for resolution 60 as amended. Mr. Allett?
Sorry, my cursor's gone. Yes.
Ms. Bowers?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels? Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mattson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 60 as amended passes.
Council members, moving on to old business. Is there any old business that you would like to speak about at this time?
Yes, I have 2 questions for the mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I wanted to know the protocol for the reporting of the fireworks. What should happen after residents call 311? Where do the complaint forms go? And when should residents expect to receive a response, since we won't be taking any action until August 26th?
Okay, so residents can call 311 or they can go directly to harrisburgpa.gov/fireworks. On that page, they can use their cursor to mark on a map where they heard the fireworks, and they can register their observation that way. There was an issue prior to City Hall's reopening on Monday, where some people were calling and getting a voice box full message when they were trying to report things in the middle of the night. That was due to the fact that the 311 operators were using their cell phones. Now that they are back at work, those messages are going directly into the voicemail here, which has a larger capacity for messages. So that should have been corrected. If people did call and get a voice box full message, we apologize for that. This is a data gathering program. So it is not designed to get a response when people report it, an immediate response, that is. If they would like a response, they can make that request via 311, and we can respond to them. But the purpose is data collection, and that data collection is going to help inform the city in a couple of different ways. First, it will help us, I think, lobby on the state level to reform the law, which has made fireworks legal. We now can point to already scores and scores of residents' complaints. And when you add those complaints to the several recent fires that we've had, I think we have a very strong data point to speak to our representatives about. And point number two, it is already helping inform our response. I know that the fire chief has looked at that map very carefully and seen some consistent patterns, and we're hoping to use those patterns to help crack down on the fireworks. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank you. My second question is, how long do you plan to conduct the Facebook Live conversations, considering that the city has reopened now? I wasn't sure if all questions that were received during the lives, if they were asked and answered, but if not, would you consider hosting one final episode per se, dedicated to questions and answers that you just ran out of time for?
Oh, well, I wasn't planning to stop the Facebook Lives unless,
Okay.
unless you're suggesting I should.
No, I just didn't know.
They will be continuing
This
through
was
the summer.
strictly okay.
Yes. Not going on break or hiatus. We'll continue to do them Fridays at noon. The topic for this Friday, which has not yet been announced, it has to do with a shop local campaign that we're putting together to help local businesses. And we will continue to host and answer questions. I'm also happy to utilize that format to assist Councilwoman Green and others in continuing the conversation about the advisory board throughout the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? Any good, more old news, council members? Any new? I do have some new business. I just want to make sure that the residents of City Harrisburg know that they still can submit any comments to City Council during the summer hiatus of the City Council Board. Please email anything at publiccomment@harrisburgpa.gov. And we will return back in session on August 25th, 2020. I do have another bit of good news. It's from Transit News from the Harrisburg Transportation Center. It's Dear President Williams, on Thursday, May 14th, I was fortunate to have Sheila Dalford hand me a check for $5,000 for the Impact Harrisburg NBSP grant. The funds are greatly appreciated and greatly needed by my business. As a train station newsstand, the bulk of our business is from rail commuters and other travelers. As there have been no trains since the middle of March, our daily sales have been down more than 90%, absent our usual cash flow. In late March, I pulled $4,000 from my retirement savings to pay April's rent and cover payroll and payroll taxes. We were fortunate to be found essential by the State Department of Commerce, which allowed us to stay open and serve the few passengers on Greyhound. And as Harrisburg's only surviving newsstand, we continue to serve those local folks who still read printed newspapers. We were again fortunate when on May 1st, our bank extended a payroll protection program loan, enabling us to pay our rent for May and June and get all of our staff back on the payroll. We have watched some of our shelves become bare as most of our perishable foods were distributed to the homeless and the remainder tossed. In the absence of any real cash flow, we would have been hard pressed to find the resources to restock in anticipation of trains again rolling and customers returning. The Impact Harrisburg NBSB grant will enable us to replace much of our inventory without incurring further debt. On behalf of my business, its employees and customers, thanks to you and the members of City Council for this much needed support. With all our best wishes, William J. Kalaji, proprietor of Transit News. And I thought that was really a very nice letter that I wanted to share with the council members and the administration. Any other new business? Hearing none, I say to each one, every last one of you, have a nice and safe, healthy summer vacation. We will be turning again on August 25th, 2020. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Thank you. Meeting is officially adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.